So hello and welcome to episode how many?
105.
105. Did we ever think we'd get there like a year or two ago?
We didn't think we'd get to 100 a year or two ago, so...
Yeah, well, that wasn't quite our fault. I mean, we can say now Terry Hearn was supposed to be the episode 100 guest. I don't have his number anymore. Used to many years ago. A lot of phones have gone, or he may have changed it. I don't know, but he ain't in my phone no more. We used to speak fairly regular when we fished similar lakes, and he came up to work for us and stuff. The Manchester Carp meetings, which were like the predecessor to the Northern Angling Show, and he just never got in touch. And I chased him through mutual friends that speak to him regular, and he promised he was going to do it. And it never worked out somehow. I hope it does in the future. But that's what delayed the episode 100 for a year. We wanted to make it super special and to get, the god of sort of modern day carp fishing, Terry Hearn, was that's what we were waiting for. And it also coincided we weren't particularly motivated for the podcast at the time, Mark. I mean, we're motivated now. It was minus 27 in Scotland last night. We've had minus 20s in England, like the feels like temperature. I mean, this has been a proper cold snap this week, hasn't it, Mark?
It's been nice and chilly. I mean,
nice and chilly.
You've
been for a swim?
No, actually, the lake I swim has got a lid on, which is very rare because it's deep. I'm talking, 40 foot plus.
Yeah,
it's one of these lakes that doesn't often freeze over, but I've seen pictures of it with a lid on, which we can't swim in it at the minute anyway because of it's council owned, and with the COVID situation, it's not happening. But yeah. Where were we? This is too early in the morning. We get some coffee.
Get some more coffee down. Yeah, I've got a little pot of coffee. I've forgotten to bring the milk. Actually, this is for. Do you know how many people don't know that we're doing this on video now? I was quite surprised. So if you are watching us on video, you'll have seen me manually fill up the coffee pot. And now you're going to hear a clunk when I put it down by the mic.
Fill me up.
I don't want to hear that ever again from a man. I've had a few people, including I was chatting with Simon, who hosts the Corda podcast, Think and Tackle podcast. Had a wild, crazy chat with Simon. Actually, he sent me a message saying, "Would you be a guest on the podcast?" I was like, "Why has it took this long to ask me?" Joke that was, by the way. I don't really have an ego. I'll try not to. And he was like, "Yeah, you started the original podcast, or you're Mark, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. I've heard what you've said about." In fact, let me go back to the start. So Simon, I already had his number in my phone. To my surprise, when he said, "Can I ring you?" I sent him my number, and he rang me, and it came up as Simon Hoburn. I was like, "Oh, Simon Hoburn." Turns out it's a guy called Simon, as in the Simon, that I met at Hoburn. So remember that holiday park Roger and I were fishing in the Cotswolds?
I do actually, yeah. That's is that when you were catching that? Well, Roger was doing the winter fish on that. He was using the S7 at the time. I remember.
That's right. Yeah. We did a feature on it, didn't we? Because we had a mega session. We had a session where we caught loads. So it was this caravan park in the Cotswolds. It was called Holborn. I think the fish are gone now. So don't go hunting it down. But it's private as well. Mm. But we did get some permission to fish there one winter, and I don't think it. I think the people who live in like the wooden lodges around it, all like holiday lodges. And I did go back with Spenny actually. Spenny from Northern Angling Show and Kaluki. We went back and we booked an apartment for a week and took his kids and stuff. I think it was like Easter or something. Did a bit of fishing, caught quite a few. But anyway, Roger and I had a session in the middle of winter and caught a load of fish. It was rumored to have a couple of big ones in there, but there was a lot of otters around at the time as well. I think that's one of the reasons why they let people fish in the winter, because there was otters. But that kind of Cotswolds area's got big problem with otters, and very very difficult to fence a lot of the lakes. They're not all completely private. But anyway, but as I was packing up one day, I thought it was the day. Do you remember when I put a thumb through my a hook through my thumb. Do you remember that?
Yeah, you spoke about it quite a lot.
Well, but when that hook went through my thumb, I was packed up with like a rig hanging from my thumb, trying to pack up and then push my barrow around. Super muddy it was. I met a guy as I was loading in the car park, and he was listening to the Carp Cast as we drove up. Anyway, it turns out that was Simon, who now does the Corder podcast. Anyway, we had a chat, which we should have recorded because, blimey, it lasted almost 5 hours. A phone call. It was 5 hours. I've not had a phone call that long since a girl, like when I was hiding the phone bill from my parents when I was 17 or something. Do you know what I mean? Back in the days before mobiles, when you had to hide the phone bill, I regularly spend a few hours a night on the phone to me pals or girlfriends or whatever, tucked away, rather than watch 3 channels on TV or whatever there was at the time. You kids have got it so lucky now.
But black and white when you were that young, wasn't
it? Yeah. Well, you had to pay extra for a colour licence. There was a black and white licence and a colour licence. We had to have both because. Wow, there's going to be no fishing talk in this podcast.
We just tangents about being old.
Yeah, tangents all over the place. Get this: when I was a kid, like it was very rare to have a second TV in the house. Like it was certainly on the sort of council estates and stuff I lived on when I was younger. And we won one. Well, my dad won one in a competition for milk. So, do you remember the advert, milk's got a lot of bottle? Remember that?
I do.
The catch saying. Well, that was the one that won it. My dad come second. The first prize was like holidays and all sorts. It was a pretty big competition that they ran for, a slogan for a TV advert. Anyway, my dad got a runners-up place, which I think we got some money, and a black and white portable TV, which went in my bedroom upstairs. And it was like talk of the street at the time. Like nobody had not many people had bloody hell, sounds like we're really old. This isn't actually that long ago.
Really old, because I'm thinking about the first little TV I got as a kid in my bedroom.
Yeah.
There's no remote, you had to get up. You didn't even push a button, there was like a dial you had to get between the channels.
That's right, yeah. I've had a few of them in my time. Yeah,
they're about the size of a small washing machine.
Yeah,
weight exactly. Of a small washing machine.
Yeah, they were heavy, weren't they? Those big TVs, like there was the craze, like the Lick TV to have prior to like plasmas and the LCDs and LEDs and stuff we've got now. Were like those big silver widescreen thingies, weren't they? They were like pretty big for the time, like 28 inch or 32 inch or something. They used to come on a big silver stand. You can't give them away now. Like charity shops won't take them. Yeah, and they were good quality TVs. They're better than most of the LEDs now. Like those old, however they worked.
I remember moving house with my parents as a kid. Those tellies, they don't half go with a bang when you drop them.
I bet they do. Like, but you can't get rid of them. Nobody wants them. They were like absolute state of the art. Yeah, well, no, I mean.
It's like the same thing when, it's downstairs on charge at the minute, but my mobile phone has got my entire music collection in.
Mm.
Whereas back then, you'd have like a stack system of hi-fis, a pile of LPs, and then it moved on. I remember buying my first CD when they first come out.
What was it?
It was a CD single of What's My Name by Snoop Dogg.
Oh, no way. I didn't expect that one. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
What was your first tape you ever owned? Sorry, this is a fishing podcast, and for those of you who only want to listen to fishing,
cassettes.
You're probably going to listen to Corder or something.
Blank that I used to record the charts with and then just fast forward the ones that you didn't like.
Yeah, that was the thing. Kids won't ever know about. Listen, the only way you could get music as a sort of young kid with no money was Sunday. What time was it on? Was it 5 till 7 or something on a Sunday? Top of the Pop. Was it called Top of the Pops?
I think it was just like the countdown.
It was a chart show, wasn't it? Yeah, it was 1 to 40 on the charts, and you'd record every song that you liked. You'd be sat by the radio with a tape recorder.
And starting.
Yeah, fingers on the record and play. You had to do 2 buttons at the same time on Bosch and record it. Yeah, I actually did my first ever DJ set. I was definitely younger than 10. Because we moved when I started high school. When I was 11, we moved to a different house, and I wasn't in that house, so I was definitely 10 or 9. or maybe younger, and I'd been recording. Same thing, like everybody did back then. That was how you got your music. You recorded the top 40 because there was no way of listening to music that wasn't on the radio. Like, you were told what to listen to back then. And again, as I said, this is a half a fishing podcast. And
We'll get back to fishing, but just one little story that's popped into my head when you mentioned your first DJ set. Have I ever told you about my short experience as a DJ?
Yeah, go on. What, a heavy metal DJ, was it?
Oh, of course, yeah. Basically, me and my good mate Nobby, we persuaded the landlord of a pub, the Gatehouse in Doncaster, to just let us put a rock night on. Don't pay us, just give us a couple of pints, and we'll get people in. And all the equipment was already there, and it was all CDs. And as soon as we figured out how to use it, there was like, was 2 decks of CDs where you'd get one queued up while the other one was playing, and vice versa, and it was quite easy. And, well, it wasn't until we got one of my CDs, it was a 9 Inch Nails one, but I'd kind of borrowed it from the library permanently, and pulled the security thing off the top, so it went in the machine, and it was a bit sticky on the top, and it got stuck in there.
Yeah.
So we never went back.
You basically broke their stuff.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, well, my one, I actually got 2 tape players. Must have been about 9. This before I even knew about DJing, or I didn't play guitar by then either. And yeah, I did two tape players. Got a load of sweets and drinks. Invited all of my friends around off the street and played all my favourite songs to them off two tape recorders. I got rigged up so I could play one then the other. I didn't even know any DJing existed. You know what I mean? I just wanted to play music to my favourite songs to my friends. That painted me.
Getting back to you, you already had Simon from Corda Podcast in your phone.
Yeah, well remembered. Yeah, so I'd met him on. I'd met him down at Holborn. Put his number in, we found it, and he listened to Carp Cast, and obviously he's gone on to do many things. A very, very interesting guy. Lots and lots of stuff. Obviously, he likes our podcast because we can do this. We can talk about anything we like, and obviously Corda is while he's not told what to do, he's very conscious of his audience and stuff. So it was kind of a very interesting conversation that lasted about 4 3/4 hours. And I just got off a 2.5 hour phone call as well from the Carp Circle guys, Matt. And it was just insightful. It's a long time since I've had a conversation like that. Where we covered everything from fishing to aliens to yoga, to you name it. We went through it. But yeah, I love that. When you sort of meet somebody and get inside their head and have a really good chat, but you both got opinions, or not opinions, perspective that's different, to each other, so it adds value to the conversation, which is, one of the reasons why we work doing this, Mark. As many people compliment, I do most of the talking, and when you jump in, it's normally worth listening to or funny.
I'd like to think it's both. I'm sure I fail on both times, but man, remember back, back when we fished together, what the conversations were like back then? There was generally alcohol involved in various quantities, and
that always helps. Yeah,
I can't remember much of them at all.
I can't. They'll have been exactly like this, no doubt. We'll have just been chatting about whatever. You'll have been moaning about whatever job you had at the time. I think I'll have been moaning about having no money, because those Elstow days, I was broke. I might not have been broke if I wasn't addicted to Elstow. That sort of, I think it was about 60 quid return in fuel at the time to get there and back, which regularly got paid instead of the mortgage. Imagine being that keen again, where you literally will put your whole life off to go fishing.
You know what? I wouldn't want to be that keen again.
No?
But I know, we touched on it when we were chatting to Jules, and when I caught the twin, I didn't fish for nearly a couple of months. I had to, try and claw myself out my overdraft, get reacquainted with the girlfriend, now the wife, thankfully, so that worked. But then a bit of a playing around season or 2 on Pit 1, but then it kind of nearly got me again on St Ives, but caught that one pretty quick, thankfully.
Yeah, the old.
Relatively quick.
What fish would that be?
Dumpilinia.
Can you hear that little squeaking in the background through your headphones?
I can, yes, only faintly.
Yeah, it's Lulu's had pups.
Yeah, you're a dad.
Granddad. Yeah, granddad. Yeah, Shazza. What an amazing experience all that's been. Can you hear him now?
Yeah.
Let me just make sure one's not squashed. No. Now that one of them's really noisy when it's feeding. But yeah, everything went really smoothly. What a fantastic experience that was. Is going to give most of them away. There might be a couple to sell at the end of it, but my auntie's. I told you before about my uncle who died, who basically is the reason for my career. You know, he gave me my first guitar when I was very young, and I used to go and tour with him, which, you know, his agent became my agent when I started a band, and basically shaped my life. Anyway, he died, and he had a dog called Buddy, after Buddy Holly, because he was like quite a famous 60s performer, and it left me Auntie Maggie, who, like I said, I would go and stay with them every single school holiday when I was young. They were, you know, real sort of idols to me at the time. The lifestyle that they living on the road, back of a van, travelling, kebabs on the way home, getting drunk, you know. And had me first proper booze session with my uncle when I was young, and anyway, he died sadly recently, and then the dog Buddy died like literally straight afterwards. So said to me, Angie, she's on her own now, and obviously on her own, you know, they've done everything together. She used to go to all the gigs apart from when they were abroad and stuff. He supported like Jimi Hendrix in Rome, and played at the Isle of Wight festival, the big famous one, sort of in the 60s, and worked for Telstar, you know, all them one-hit wonder bands. Well, they were all basically my uncle's band, you know, after they'd had the hit. Like, Telstar used to buy up the rights to the song and the name of the band. And my uncle it'd be the Honeycombs one night, it'd be a different band the next night, you know, depending on who was booked under the Telstar name. But yeah, I went to many sort of Butlins 60s weekenders and all sorts of stuff when I was young. So yeah, I said she could have one of the dogs. Yeah, I think there's at least 3 I'm going to give away. But yeah, what a fantastic experience. And I apologise for the squeaking in the background, but I now know where Sooty and Sweep got their sounds from, because it's exactly what puppies sound like. But yeah, fishing. You thinking about fishing, Mark?
Eventually. I mean, I look at the forecast, late last night. I think it's on, what we're on now, Friday. I think come early next week it's going to be getting a bit warmer. The ice should be melting over next week. I spoke to a good pal of mine, Big Chris. He's, we're possibly having a day somewhere on next Friday. And I am thinking of fishing. It's like 9 degrees next Friday, and that's like summer in Yorkshire.
I've decided I'm not fishing till it's double figures again now. That's me. I want to see 2 digits day and night before I'm going anywhere.
That's not going to look any good on your Instagram. You need some ice and snow.
I'm stuck. I'm stuck babysitting, obviously, for the next sort of 8 weeks with these. So I couldn't go fishing if I wanted to. But it's time's in with this nasty cold spell, I guess. So yeah, it's all good. I am thinking about equipment. We spoke last week about what we'd like to change, to upgrade, get different equipment. Unfortunately, none of it's arrived in the post.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, but we touched on mainly some of the larger items and bivvies and rods, reels, etc. But this is something I know you've wanted to speak about for quite a while.
What's that? Go on.
You know exactly what it is, because this is the time of year where a lot of people are getting fresh line on the reels, are re-spooling up, ready.
Ready. I see
red.
I see what you did
that
there.
Big daft orange stuff. And I've seen, is it which would do a purple one? I think you can get the Fox Exocet in some of the lighter breaking strains in orange now. Which
Yeah,
what are the advantages of using fluoro mainline when we're trying to conceal and hide it?
Well, that's the myth, isn't it? I mean, carp fishing is probably the only style of fishing where we do try and match our line to the water. I used to be obsessed about it years ago, using different colour lines so that it was kind of invisible in the water, and I just think it's absolutely pointless, and there's not really any other advantage to it. In fact, I can hear lots of squeaking. In fact, it actually makes a lot of things in fishing harder. The difference is when you go to Europe, and there's a lot of casting, and there's a lot more fish, and there's a lot more catching, and there are so many benefits to using luminous line. I mean, it just goes to show that Fox are now releasing their Exocet in fluoro orange. Like, that tells you the demand, doesn't it? That a UK based company is actually catering for what people are using generally. And if you go abroad, almost everybody's lines are either fluoro green, like really bright green, or fluoro orange. That purple one you're on about, I think the theory behind that is that you can't really see it underwater, so even though it looks sort of bright on the reel, or brighter than a normal line, it's not actually for that purpose. It's supposed to kind of dissipate in the water. If you want a line that you don't see in the water, the P line that you and I use, Mark, P line extrusion, it vanishes.
Disappear.
That I did an underwater thing with Husey, and he one of them ones where you find a spot, cast out, feel a spot, and then you guess what it looks like, and he tells you how wrong you are. He couldn't find my line all the way out, and first thing he said when he got back is, "What line are you using? That's the best line I've ever seen underwater." For not being able to see it. But I don't think you want to be able to not see it. Like, there's a big myth in fishing that we believe the carp are scared by line, by seeing a lead, by there's this obsession about camoing things underwater, and I just think it's pointless, because other than the hook and maybe the hook bait, nothing else actually. Carp aren't bright enough to ping your line 4 meters away from the spot and associate that with this little round hook bait that's on the end of a hook. Yes, they're a bit wary when they're feeding, because they know there's a danger there. That's carp that are kind of well fished for, but they don't associate it. You get that line bite. How often do you get line bites? When it's going to happen, your bobbins are just coming up a few inches, beep, 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 then down, and it's up and down. It's exciting. There's fish nutting over your spot. How often do you get a line bite and the fish bugger off? It never happens. You're just waiting for the bite. You always get the bite eventually, because the fish are down there feeding. They're knocking your leader. They're nuzzling. Their head's going under the leader. Which is why you're getting the liners in the first place, because they're all down there feeding and bumping the line and God knows what. They're not associating that bit of it with danger, and never are. And same with spodding. In Europe, I've spod practice loads, but it's very common to spod. You see a fish nut on your spot, the first thing they do is get a spod out to make it feed, just like we would when we're float fishing and you put a catapult of maggots around your float. Every time you put that catapult of maggots in, you don't worry it's going to scare the fish, do you?
The difference between a spod and a catapult of maggots is there's a great big fat splash.
Yeah, which I think is even better. If I could splash the maggots in, I probably would, because you're announcing to them with that splash that there's food coming underneath. They never get caught off that food. They eat most of it mid-water. They're used to sitting under the spawn. We spoke about this before with your pal Adrian catching the rotund Cambridgeshire fish. He was getting liners while he was spodding. He spodded all day, literally put 10, 20 kilo out of something, and then
ridiculous amount. He's a masturbator.
And then caught it instantly. The same happened to me with a lady. I was getting liners while I was spodding, and it was winter. It was November. I only put a few out. I put about 20 spods out after moving swims into the deeper water. And I was getting liners while I was doing it. I thought it was me catching the line somehow. But it wasn't, and then I had a bite a couple of hours later. But abroad, it's extremely common to get bites while you're spodding, even in 5-6 foot of water. It's very, very common. Their fish are no different to ours, just more of them. So there's maybe a bit more competition for food. But anyway, we get worried about things that just don't spook the carp, I don't think. And you've seen even on the early underwater videos on Horseshoe and stuff, you know, if there was fish feeding on the spot and they cast a lead in, the fish like bolted about 4 foot away and then came back 5 minutes later. Like, it doesn't really spook them. It might surprise them, you know, and they might move away. But there's no reason for a spot to scare the fish. It's delivering food, free food, because, as I said, most of that food that's coming out of that spot, they don't get caught on. It's the patches of bait that have been on the bottom for quite a long time that spook fish. You know, they're the ones that become recognisable. But that's just pattern recognition. It's not intelligence. You know, that's how fish work. It's pattern recognition. And they forget over a period of time. You know, you can always remember Steve Pagulatos you remember him from sort of Yateley days and Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a big advocate of sweet corn, but he used to hammer them in the spring on sweet corn. He put big beds of it out. But he said what happened after a while, it'd go off really well, and by the autumn they'd spook like hell. They'd see a patch of yellow and just be scared. But they'd forgotten about it over the winter. When you hadn't fished for them for a while and you go back next spring, you'll lever them again on the sweet corn.
Yeah, would changing the colour and flavour of the sweet corn work, do you reckon? You know, there's different
almost definitely
around now.
Almost definitely, because I think fish are they just recognise stuff at the time, and all you need to do is to tweak it slightly. We've spoke about this a lot, about doing stuff differently. If you with Crowley last week, we were talking about just doing the opposite what everyone else is doing. If the swims no one's fishing, they're the swims you want to be in. If everyone's using short hook links, use long hook links. You know, Gary Bays from Nash was a big advocate of that as well. You know, I've seen him using 2 foot hook links, and they ask him why, like expecting some technical answer, and because no one else does.
Do you know what? I remember talking to Gary back when he was fishing Elstow 1, and you know what that was like. A lot of the fish had names, the swims had names, and the features in front of each swims had names. It's like if you went in the corner knuckle, you fished to Hippo's Hump or some of the others. If you went in the point, you fished to the Haggler. It's just
Haggler. I love that. And, that's my favourite name for a feature in anyway. Don't gloss over the fact that Elstow 1, the features have names.
Yeah, and you fished exactly the same way as anyone else does on there. And to be honest, I did exactly the same, and I was catching fish, so I was quite happy. But, you know, in just like, you know, I was chatting with, Gary Plask with some bait or what have you, he just kind of flippantly says, oh, if I was on there, I'd fish the gullies. It's just exactly the same thing, just doing it different, and
I know, and back
then sure he'd catch.
And back then, those gullies were, 30, 40 deep, most of them?
I think on pit 1 it was slightly, I'll say shallower, but slightly less deep. A lot of them were like, you know, between 20 and 30 foot.
Yeah, and nobody that I know of has really spent much time in them. You know, maybe adjustable zigs or whatever, but it was a long time ago, 20 odd years we fished there. But you know what? The more deeper waters I've fished now, like a hell of a lot of deeper waters abroad, you know, where 30, 40 foot is standard, I wouldn't think twice about fishing in that deeper water now. And them times when they're not having it, you know, on the normal sort of spots, you know, when it seems like the lake's just switched off. Who knows? Maybe. I mean, I'm sure the regulars on there will probably be listening to this going, you don't know what you're talking about. You're probably right, but I've become way less scared of super deep water now. I've had so many fish in 40 foot plus, like hundreds, literally, in the last 4 years, I would say. You know, you can catch 100 fish in a session on some of the lakes where we run the holidays to, vipcarpholidays.co.uk. You can catch 100 fish in a session sometimes, you know, all 30 plus. And it might be normal to fish, you know, in 45 foot, 50 foot. Lake Bled, I mean, it's very difficult to get less than 40 foot on Lake Bled. You know, that there's one small area where the Eurobanks hit happened, where that tree was that Alan stood out, and some of the best carp fishing footage I've ever watched to this day. That epic session where the storm came in on Lake Bled. You remember, it's absolutely fantastic. That's the only place on the old lake, really. And if you go a little bit further out from where they were, I mean, it's only a patch that runs about 30 yards out. As soon as you go past 30 yards out, you're back in 40, 50 foot again, which in that area is quite common to just fish over the drop-off where that shallow water is. That's not a bad spot. But yeah, not scared of deep water at all. And like I said, you fish the spots when the spots are fishing. You know, if you see the fish showing over the haggler, which was quite regular, wasn't it? Because it was right out in the middle of that sort of open bit of water.
Called the haggler because it was the equal distance between 3 different swims, but it was generally accepted it was the points feature.
Okay, so why haggler? Haggling, not Marvin. I thought it was something to do with Marvin Haggler.
No, I believe that's the name anyway. Again, someone will correct us in the comments, no doubt.
I'll tell you who I saw the other day from Elstow days. I never really spoke to him much at Elstow, but I know you did. But what a lovely fella, and that was Graham Slaughter.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's not too far from me, up at Worksop.
Yeah,
at Super Mario.
I saw him I was up at Cranwell doing some work with Nathan the other week. He came in. He was, I don't know, something to do with bait and his friend's company or whatever. But yeah, what a lovely fella. He's always worked in the industry.
Yeah, he is. Worked with Hutchie for quite a while, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
And, I remember walking into his... he was fishing the reeds on Pit 1. And I knew he was kind of one at Northern Lads, not one of the cliquey locals at the time. So I thought I was on Pit 2 at the time. I thought, no, I'll pop in and have a chat, say hello. And I stuck my head round his bivvy. He's got a face covered in shaving foam, and he's got his mirror out there, making sure he looks all nice and sexy for his trophy shots.
I remember watching Matt Hayes on a carp fishing session on Discovery or whatever. Remember them marathon weekends used to get on Discovery when everybody had cable. Yeah. Does anyone even have cable anymore? Obviously with Fire Sticks and all that now, you just don't need anything, do you?
Streaming websites and
it's but anyway, he used to get like marathon weekenders. You could watch like 48 hours of the Great Rod Race or whatever. And one of Matt Hayes' I mean, this is 20 years ago I watched this, so when it was filmed it was even older, I don't know, but he used to take, obviously he's on TV, and so I can understand a bit more vanity where he's actually, performing for the camera every day. He's not looking like the homeless person I've been looking like for the last few weeks. I did have a shave for this, by the way. No,
really? Where?
On
the head.
Yeah, everywhere. I was looking a bit homeless, but he took mirror, shaving foam, shaver, and a washing up bowl. And he obviously uses washing up the food equipment and for having a little, baby bath in every morning. Boil a kettle, fill it with hot water, get his soap in. And I remember looking at it and went out and bought a washing up bowl. And then I took it to the wire, I think, one time, and it would have been Roger and Jason, all them on me. And put it this way, and I hope they've forgotten about it, and I've never took it back since.
You got slaughtered.
Yeah, Graham slaughtered.
Yeah, I think my limit was a toothpaste and toothbrush and spat in the bush.
Just goes to show, though, doesn't it? Even me, I saw Matt Hayes do something on TV, and there I was doing the same thing. It's quite influential, isn't it?
Influenced. Yeah,
we all are by especially by visual stuff, which is one of the reasons I didn't finish that. Carp Cast is now visual. If you're listening to this on audio podcast on your favourite podcast site, I know you will have already hit the subscribe button so that you never miss an advert, and I know you will have left us a review of some point, negative or not. It doesn't really matter. Whatever you feel, please put it in, because that does generate traction for us on the old Apple charts and all the other stuff, which helps us. But you can actually look at these great faces for radio while you are watching. Don't do this while you're driving or anything, but obviously, yeah, it's all on YouTube. It's on video. We do spend a bit of time editing sometimes. We've got something interesting, we'll drop the pictures in or visual aids. But yeah, you can see Mark picking his nose while I'm talking in the middle, or as he's doing now. But yeah, so we are trying to build the YouTube channel. In fact, naay.co.uk, which is some friends of ours, Ben, he has a company which is a social media company. They drive traction. They do social media campaigns, ad campaigns. They do everything digital media, including the content creation. naay.co.uk. Absolutely fantastic company. I'm going to have a little chat with them about helping us build our YouTube channel as well. He sent me a link the other day for one that he's building for somebody else. Do you have a look at that, Mark? It looked pretty good.
I've not watched any videos, but I've clicked on the link. I've had a quick look. I'm going to investigate it further. It does look quite interesting, to be honest. And the sort of stuff the fella's doing, it's the sort of stuff I'm interested in. So
yeah, I looked at it and I thought about you. And what does he do? This guy?
I say I've not watched the videos yet, but is he something like ex-military, or he does lots of
it looked like
out there stuff?
Yeah, fitness training and stuff like that. He's definitely seems to be ex-military. I mean, we've got all this. I haven't watched the video either. We've got all this just from the thumbnails and stuff that they're doing on the YouTube channel, which again has generated interest for both of us. So it shows that Ben's doing a great job over there. So I'm going to have a little chat with him about helping us build our YouTube channel, and then you can actually see how good they are, because you'll be able to track the progress of our channel, and should it build loads, then they're going to be responsible for it, because at the minute it seems to be the same sort of 1,200 people watching every episode on YouTube, and while the podcast is as big as it ever was. We're still maintaining our spot in the charts. I think we're on 5 this week. At one point, yeah.
We've not overtaken the gardeners yet.
Sorry,
we've not got past the gardeners.
Well, I think we have been in the past, because we have been number 1 and number 2. But yeah, the old Gardeners World or Gardeners Question Time, whatever it is. Is it a Radio 4 program? That
I think so. Probably we're not going to compete with the BBC, are we?
Probably not. Although there was one BBC program we've been ahead of, and then pesky sowers, some sowers in their bobbins.
Dear.
I don't know about them, but yeah. If you're looking for a social media campaign, Ben is keen. He works outside of the fishing industry, but he's developed a love for fishing. He's friends with Alex Mallard, who owns clearwaterfisheries.co.uk. Fantastic complex up here in the northwest on the Lake District sort of Cumbria border. He's a friend of Alex's. He's developed a love from fishing since Alex has had the lakes, and he's now he's looking at the media within angling and realizing, as we all know, it's a long way behind kind of other industries, and he's very keen to work with people in the fishing industry, as he knows about fishing, and he wants to work with people who, diversify his day a little bit, and do stuff for his hobby. So he is looking to bring his expertise from outside of fishing into the digital fishing world. So naay.co.uk, and you'll be able to track his progress, hopefully, if he says yes, because I'm going to ask him to help us build the YouTube channel. We've got Scott Lloyd coming on a little later. Thom Ayres will be in shortly. I'm just looking on our Zoom call, see if he jumps in the room. He said about 11:30 roughly, Mark, and it's currently 11:22. But have you seen anything on the net?
Lots of people moaning about the weather. But we've already mentioned that. Looking at when the sun's out now, everything's going to be still frozen. It's -4, -5, whatever it was last night.
Have you had a look at the feels like temperatures? They're incredible low, aren't they? Good.
Yeah, like you say, it was -20 odd up at Scotland, but let's be honest, they can keep it, they deserve it.
Sorry, Drew. Drew's our Carp Cast super fan, who runs West Lothian Angling, which is a cracking carp shop. He's expanded 3 times now into bigger shops. You wouldn't think there'd be a demand for carp shops in Scotland, but there is some great carp fishing up there. There's a Scottish carp group that one of our friends started years ago. Manchester lad, he moved up to Scotland. He's been responsible for stocking a lot of the lakes up there. They've been holding drives, raising money, stocking fish in different places, and there's got some crackers up there now. Obviously, a lot of people know Ben May, another Scottish guy who holds the record. Remember him catching that? He had a good 30 from one of the canals outside Glasgow, like in proper cutthroat area. He had a good 30 from there, and then obviously that big 40 from the lock, Castle Lock, is it?
Yeah, about 200 acres or so, not many fish in there.
Exactly, and rumoured bigger one than the one that he's had. Yeah, so there is a scene in Scotland, is what I'm saying. And if you are in Scotland and you need some bits and bobs, West Lothian Angling Centre, our pal Drew. But yeah, after you finish slagging the Scottish off,
no, I like the Scottish. I'm just jealous of the cold they have. They have nice ice swimming temperatures all year round.
Yeah, but it's been super cold up there, like high -20s. But
high or low?
It was the high 20s. I know what you're saying, though.
High minus.
High minus, yeah, minus
That'll
high.
be a low minus.
Okay, you probably know more about this than me because of the cold.
Should we just sum
swimming.
it up as fucking cold?
Yes, very cold, effing cold. I'll bleep you out. Not that we've ever bleeped a swear word on this podcast. Yeah, so it's super cold. People have been out there braving it, trying to catch a fish. I did think they were mad, absolutely mad. It's hardcore. If you're going out in a minute, at the minute, we've had feels like temperatures of -10 in the daytime, which show most of the feels like temperature is 10 degrees colder than the actual temperature because of this horrible northerly wind. Is it northeast at the minute?
It's coming from they call it the beast from the east, although I remember back when I was young we had a different name for it. We just called it weather. There was no need to give every storm a name. It was like, it was cold, put another coat on. Get your centre skull.
Yeah, so it's been feels like -10, and obviously we're on days only at the minute, so you're not bivvying up with a heater on or anything. You're out there, sat out under a brolly or whatever. That's hardcore. I'm too old for that.
Yeah,
just to get a picture for Instagram, no chance.
Yeah, I've got to give kudos to recent guest Jules for he's always out there and he's always catching as well. And he's older than the pair of us. So,
Only just. I know Jules is extremely disciplined, I think, isn't he? He's got good. He's not a procrastinator like me. He's out there. I wake up in the morning, open the front door, feel that cold wind, and I'm like, I'm not going to go and get ice cold hands, time baits on or whatever you're doing to flick the rods out to probably blank or break a hole in the ice. Or I'll tell you what, fish I've been getting caught. We'll go through it with Tom Ayres in a little bit, but people have been catching.
Yeah, there's always someone going to catch somewhere, although... I don't know where it is, but I've got an old picture from years ago when I was super keen. I'm talking, 25-ish years ago. And I've actually gone fishing. I've broke the ice, and just enough to get 3 rods out where I know there's some old dying lily pad beds. I caught absolutely nothing. But there's just like 3 lines in the ice where I've just like got each line in one. Looking back, I had absolutely zero chance of catching, but I just sat there with the rods in, drinking tea, probably chatting with a mate or two who come down, and this was in the days before Instagram. I need to find that picture and put it up.
I've seen quite a few old school pictures, not on the old school group that we've been talking about in the last few episodes, but people like Ian Russell on Farlow's, I think it was. I'm sure it was Ian Russell, playing a fish under the ice many, many years ago, but apologies if it wasn't Ian Russell. But he has been posting quite a lot recently, if you don't already follow him. Former Carp Cast guest and lovely fella. He was keeping an area of the margins clear. The lake was totally frozen over, but he was just keeping like a few metres out from the edge clear all the time, so that he could get his lines back and play a fish under the ice. And this picture is him doing exactly that. Which is hardcore. If you are out fishing, the lake does freeze over. There is a tip in it. We got this from Johnny Mack. Many years ago, he did a podcast, and Johnny Mack's known for his winter hardcore fishing. He had a few of the big ones out of Raisbury one winter, which was hard enough in the summer, let alone the winter. But he caught 2 or 3 of them, but the good ones back in the day. And the method was, have your And if you have your rod tips out the water or just under the water, it doesn't really matter. But the key point is your unhooking mat, your big beanie or whatever you've got, basically over the tip of your rods. If you put the unhooking mat there, then you're leaving a square or rectangle about the size of your unhooking mat that just won't freeze. Which means your lines won't freeze, because the worst problem is where your lines enter the water. If they freeze there, then you've got a big problem, because if you get a bite or even just getting your lines back, like you've got ice stuck around them. It's not pleasant. I've done that many times. I've had
that problem.
Yeah, your lakes freeze up on you overnight. It's horrible. You get that.
Doing it with a fish. I was. There's a good. Well, I'll say. Yeah, it was a few years back. There's up near Beverley, East Yorkshire, there's a little place called Majestic Pool. Some lovely fish, and it's got winter form, so I didn't do much time on there. It was a few sessions, but I was up there. I knew it was going to be cold. There was a chance of it freezing over, but I was set up thinking maybe, maybe not. Then as the night come in, you could see it was going to freeze, so I just dropped the rod tips, and I thought I'll let them freeze in, I'll get a good night's sleep, and then I'm off in the morning. And in the morning I've woke up, I've had a brew, kind of got human again, and with the landing net pole, I'm smashing the ice, but being careful not to hit the rod tips.
Yeah.
As I'm doing it, making a bigger hole so I can get everything in, there's a few bleeps on one of the rods, so I just think I've knocked it, or ice has knocked it. I look down and it tightened up. Again, I just think I've knocked it. So I had a little bit of slack off, then it tightened up again. So I'm just thinking, no way. So I just pulled the line back in my fingers, and then I felt it pull back. I was like, oh no, there's an actual fish on. So then I'm frantically smashing this ice around the rod tips around just to the side, so I've got just enough room to get the net in. Then I picked the rod up to wind it in, and I've got a big chunk of ice, about the size of a £2 coin on the line. And I'm trying to break it off, but I'm also scared of breaking the line. It's frozen in. So I did what nothing I could think of. I put it in my mouth and I sucked it off. Yeah, it worked.
I'm definitely clipping that little bit there.
Yeah, make sure you do more than me saying I've put it in my mouth and sucked it off. So, but anyway, I've got my rod tip down. I can feel this carp just like kiting around there, and it's weird. You've got no idea where the fish is, no control whatsoever. And then maybe about 20 yards out, it kind of like it rolled under the ice, and you could hear the ice kind of like creaking and cracking as it was another bit of pressure. But anyway, I got the fish in the edge. I seen it was down there, and it was literally get on the surface and scooped it up. No, totally unceremonious, just dragged it into the net, and I just looked down and started laughing at it. It was a £19 mirror and lots of ice, and I just laughed. It was mad.
Yeah, well, so the lesson is there: if you have your unhooking mat over the rod tips, your line won't freeze. I think you're probably better just having your rod tips just out the water, aren't you? And then, because if you have your rod tips under the water, where the line enters the water is going to be further back up your rod. And you don't want, obviously, it freezing up there. So I think if you have your rod tips just above the water, only just though, a couple of inches, and then put the unhooking mat just in front of your rod tips, I think that's the way to do it. And then that leaves you an area big enough to be able to land the fish and kind of play, put the rod tip under and play the fish.
Yeah, do you ever seen pictures of John Mack, and I believe it was Sean Leverett, his partner with the proper carp baits, it was good few years back when we was having like -15s for a spell, and they'd actually everywhere was obviously iced up. They'd come up and fish the River Trent just to get out fishing. And they're down. Where are they from? That Essex, Kent area.
Yeah. John Mack's originally from Kent, but he has lived in Essex a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very interesting. It's hardcore. When I was younger, I used to do it a lot. I remember I fished a whole winter on the Wire Lake, which is the first sort of, not the first, but after I'd moved up north, it was the first sort of proper syndicate lake that I fished. I fished it. You could fish it midweek on a day ticket, which I did originally, and that's where I met the Manchester lot, Roger and Roger Bacon, and everybody. And it was kind of a big step up in the general angler level on that lake was much, much higher than the rest. Sorry, Tom's just jumped in the waiting room, so we'll get the news in a sec. It was much, much higher than, the level of angling on there was much, much higher than the existing anywhere I'd fished before, and it obviously elevated me a lot higher. And then anyway, that first winter I bought a season ticket. I fished 60 nights over the winter, so between November and March, I did 60 nights. I absolutely loved every minute of it. It froze up a lot. I was out in the boat. I was literally the only one fishing, so I was out in the boat, breaking the ice, clearing the old weed. It got super weedy that year. I was filling boatfuls of weed. I really enjoyed it. It was going dark at 4 o'clock. I was having a sleep. I was wake up at 1 in the morning, cooking a dinner or giving me syrup sponge puddings and custard. I had a really nice routine on there. Nice. I just enjoyed the actual camping bit. It was crisp and it was like that dry cold. It was quite icy for a lot of the winter, and I caught nothing. And as far as fishing went, I had 2 fish, and one was the end of November and the other one was the end of February. And the bit in between was just an absolute waste of time, except for I enjoyed it. Cost me a relationship as well at the time, because I was DJing at weekends. I think I was playing 3 nights then in the winter. And Sunday when I finished, I was going straight to the lake. I wasn't even going home. I was arriving at the lake at 2 in the morning, setting up on the point swim on the wire every week. And rods out by sort of 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'd stay there till Thursday, go home, get a shower, and then back to work Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and off again. And that was every week. 60 nights I worked out, I fished in the winter. It was just addicted, absolutely stupid sort of back then, but I just found this lake and this kind of that syndicate mentality and had the place to myself and whatever. But in the meantime, we have the one and only Mr. Thom Ayres joining us in the chat. How are we doing, pal?
Very good. Yeah, I've got a neighbour drilling away at the moment, so if you can hear that in the background, I apologise. But yeah, I'm really good.
Yeah, I can just hear it faintly. I've got a few puppies squeaking in the background. For some reason, the fan on my laptop's making loads of noise as well. So, not the finest audio quality on this Friday morning, but we are here. We have some news, hopefully. Has there been much going on since we last spoke?
Yeah, there's been a bit. There's been a bit in the world of angling politics. The Angling Trust have submitted, I didn't realise this, is the 4th time they've submitted to the government to try and allow us to get back fishing, safely during the current pandemic. I guess we're coming up to a year nearly of coronavirus ruling our lives. So, the 4th time they've submitted plans to government. As you'd expect, they're dab hands at this now. So they've sent off quite a detailed report to the relevant people at the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, and they've also this time around they're asking anglers to put their own submissions through the Trust. There's a portal on the Trust's website where anglers can, I think, effectively explain how important fishing is to them and what it means to them during this time, and how it helps physically and mentally. So that's going to go to the relevant people in the government. We're expecting, I think, the sort of word on the street is that February the 22nd is when we might get an announcement on these things, on the sort of easing of things, and that potentially March the 8th is a date for people's diaries. It's certainly a date that teachers are working towards for schools to return. I mean, it's not set in stone. Don't put it in your diary as the day that you will be going fishing properly again, but it could be. It's out there as a possibility that's when restrictions could be lifted. I spoke to Martin Salter this week from the Angling Trust, and it's sort of, they're in their routine of submitting things to government. They're saying their submissions are fairly bold, I guess. They want a return to night fishing, a return to competitive match fishing, and a return to charter boat fishing as well. And they say in their submissions that they think that if we drop back into the tiered levels, then we shouldn't be restricted on travel as well. So that's one of their submissions, which is perhaps the highlight of it. If you're browsing it, that's quite an interesting submission, that we shouldn't be restricted by where we live. Those in urban areas shouldn't be penalised because they haven't got lakes nearby them. They should be able to go as far as they want for organised fishing. But crucially, and Martin stressed this to me. It's not for the Angling Trust to say when we go back fishing. He says, and the trust themselves say that's a public health decision for the government to make. All they're doing is providing the how and the why fishing should be allowed to resume in full. So it's up to the government, sort of the ball's in their court. And we, fingers crossed, maybe March might be the month that we can get back night fishing, or, if match fishing's your bag, then maybe.
I think I always had the first, coming out of the winter, we've just been, Mark and I, before you came, was speaking a bit about winter fishing, but it was always the 1st of March, was kind of that last 2 weeks before the close season on the 15th. Was always the 2 weeks where things started happening again after a pretty crappy long winter. So that timing could be really nice for us, assuming it happens. I feel so happy that somebody's working on our behalf for this stuff. It's the first time I've really felt sort of confident in an angling body. I know we've spoke about this before, but I'm really glad they're doing this. It's amazing, and we haven't done it yet. But I'm going to, get a corporate membership for the Carp Cast, join it as a business. If you haven't joined the Angling Trust already, and you care about fishing, I think it's about time you did. Any thoughts, Mark? You got an Angling Trust membership? Are you intending on doing it?
Not at the minute, but. Yeah, to be honest, I think we should all offer them our support. Everyone's sat at home just itching to get out, and I know from seeing other disciplines and hobbies which haven't got the representation, then they are I won't say suffering, but they're just kind of being forgotten about. We're lucky to have the Angling Trust in this situation.
Definitely, look at the golfers who is a direct comparison to anglers. They're out in the open air. They're generally in ones or twos. You don't need. It's not a group sport, although obviously you can. And they're not allowed to go play golf at the minute, and they're probably absolutely screwing. It's funny though, isn't it? How many people actually would, if there was no restrictions, how many people would actually be fishing at the minute? Probably no one. It's one of them things, you don't miss it till you haven't got it type scenario. As human beings, we want something more that we can't have, don't we? I mean, that's definitely some sort of, I don't know why, it's some sort of progression, evolutionary survival type thing in us, I think. I'd like to speak to a psychologists, find out why that is. What is it in our brains that make us do that? But I fished in a lot of winters, as we've been speaking about over the years, and there's never anyone on the banks. Now everybody wants to go. Don't know, any thoughts on that, Tom?
Yeah, no, I think we're still seeing that bounce that angling got last year. It's diminished a little bit because it's bloody cold, but there's still people out there, and I completely agree with you. When you lose something that you took for granted and then it's sort of snatched away from you, and then you do get it back, then you are sort of chomping at the bit to go. Right now I'm desperate to go. I'm busy with work, and I really just want to go out there and catching the tail end of what you were just saying about being somewhere and just the place to fish. Sometimes you get it in your bones during a winter or any campaign. You just want to go, and I think angling is really riding the crest of a wave, throughout the industry at the moment. Is really buoyed by last year, the fact that we were allowed to go fishing. Like you say, the golf comparison, I think it's made established sports sit up and take notice of the way that angling is being sort of run, or at least being represented at the moment. That the Angling Trust has really fought our corner on this issue, as they've come up trumps, to be honest. So it's a good situation for the fishing as a whole to be in at the moment, I think.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Big shout out to Martin Salter and Jamie Cook, is it? Kind of doing all the work on our behalf. And you say we can go and actually do something ourselves. There's a place where we can go and voice our. I don't know what the word is. It's not a grievance, is it? But we can voice our opinions that we should be allowed. Because this ties in a little bit with the story from last week, which was about the NHS recognising that fishing is good for our mental health. So surely that tied in with this, is gives us a strong argument to being able to get out and do stuff. Is there any more developments? You're a bit cagey about the story last week because you were blowing it up in Angling Times. Today, probably, is it?
It came out this week, so it was in Tuesday's Angling Times. So as we talk on Friday morning, I guess the podcast might well be released on this same day that I'm talking to you. Yeah. Good stuff. So yeah, it's out in the current Angling Times, but I'm happy to shed a bit more light on it. Yeah, I was a bit cagey last week as we were clinging onto it as an exclusive, but pleased to report it's been on TalkSport on their Drive Time show this week. Nigel Botherway was drafted in to chat about it, and it might well be picked up by the national newspapers. I've not checked just yet. I've had a busy week, but I think stories were certainly sent to the national newspapers, and I'd love to see that. I'd love to see the national newspapers following up on stuff in Angling Times, and this story is of national significance as far as I'm concerned. It's a trial. It's a 3-year trial, so it's not an insignificant trial. It's involving initially 7 GP surgeries down in Somerset. And I think the overriding, there's a few competing things that they're trying to do, but one of them is they're trying to wean people off antidepressants. As many people are trying to wean people off many different forms of medication to try and help relatively mild mental health issues. And fishing is a great way to sort of alleviate some of the stresses that we can all suffer at times. And part of it this might be a follow-up story that we look into. In fact, it is, because I'm looking into it at the moment. But there's a lot of antidepressants in the water system and in sewage and things like that. So again, I might be a bit cagey now because I might have already said too much, but we're looking into that, and that could be an issue that affects fish behaviour and things like that. So that's perhaps off on a tangent, but it's part of the reason why a water company is backing this trial down in Somerset, and other water companies throughout England at least are looking at it closely, because if we can wean people off antidepressants, which those chemicals are then washed into the sewage and water system, and they're difficult and expensive to remove. I know we've had similar things in fishing with estrogen from the contraceptive pill that have been sort of washed into the watercourse, and cocaine. I know there was something in London where the water, you could find traces of cocaine in the water system in London, and the fish were clearly sort of filtering that through their gills. So there's all sorts of chemicals that we're putting into the watercourse, and the more we can get out by various means, the better. And yeah, I think it's a good thing for fishing. I think it's a really good demonstration of where fishing is at in the public conscience at the moment. Perhaps this time last year, fishing would never have been mentioned as something to help mental health causes, but now fishing is so prominent because we've been allowed to do it when other sports have been paused, that fishing's reputation at the moment is probably as high as it's been in my lifetime, I'd imagine. On a national level, in terms of what the average punter on the street thinks of fishing, it's probably about as positive as it can be. So a good news story all round.
Excuse me, cough at the opportune moment. Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know if fishing's ever had a higher profile and been accepted as. There's still a little bit of a stereotype of the maggots and flat cap and whippets type, staring at a float in the freezing cold on a little square seat box. Like, there's, to non-anglers, there's a little bit of that, but I think there's a lot more acceptance. We've got the ITV programs and stuff, that Ali Hamidi's been behind. Its profile's as good as it's ever been, I think, in my lifetime. There's so much content. It's carp fishing, especially, as we know, has got high quality content. It's quite vibrant and modern. Carp fishing is not too far behind the rest of the world, modern industries as far as media is concerned. It's got podcasts like this for a start, but I think fishing's got a really good image, and there doesn't seem to be any backlash against it really at the minute. Quite often when fishing's received prominence in the past, you get the kind of anti-brigades coming in, and people I don't know, there used to be this automatic negative reaction, but it was kind of prior to social media, and that everybody knows somebody who goes fishing now. I'd have been embarrassed for many years to have a picture of a fish, as a profile picture on social media. But it's definitely a turn on for women. No. I refer to a meme there that no woman ever has ever saw a picture of a guy with a fish and thought, I'll have a bit of that. We've still got that one to get over yet. But there are obviously a lot of females in fishing themselves now, but they probably don't have pictures of fish either. I don't know. It's good though. It's good. I mean, and this is all down to the fact that there is media, the fact the Angling Trust are painting us in an extremely good light, and we don't seem to be buggering it up at the minute as well, which is always an issue, I think, when we rise to prominence. You remember the otter debacle, and then you've got, all these people on, just shoot them all. Like, that doesn't really help us, it doesn't help the opinion of anglers, does it? Let's just murder everything, It goes against we're out there with nature, like kind of being the eyes and ears and spotting problems and pollution and Lord knows what. I've seen something about that cocaine in the River Thames recently as well. I think it was on a documentary or something, but it's quite a significant level, isn't it, I believe?
I think so in London, yeah. I think, I don't know if they've tested it elsewhere, but what it does to the fish. I mean, I have looked into what antidepressants do to fish, and just a cursory look at the moment. I'm going to dig into it a bit more, but there is some theory that to be a bit crude, it almost gets them stoned, and then they sort of become a bit lazy, and they're less likely to flee predators and things like that. So it could, I don't know, it could be an interesting. It's hard to test a wild population of fish. So I think these are all done in sort of laboratory conditions. But our fish's behaviour could be being modified by some of the stuff that's flushed down the toilet or is excreted by us humans. So who knows?
There was rumours allegedly of I'm not even going to mention their names, but extremely famous old school anglers that used to fish Yateley putting narcotics in their bait deliberately. Back in the day, you ever heard those alleged rumours?
We did get some boilies a few years ago into the office from a company, I think, sort of in Europe, that were. The boilies had sort of bloodshot eyes and Rastafarians on the front, and it was all playing on the hemp sort of thing. But I don't know, what an expensive way to get rid of your stash, isn't it, to put it in boilies? But who knows?
Yeah, no. I mean, what's next? Yeah, heroin laced. I mean, you won't need pheromones. We had a bit of a talk with Mark Holmes and stuff about pheromones in fishing. You just don't need them. Let's just addict them well, I mean, most antidepressants, contain opiates, don't they? Which is kind of not too dissimilar. So yeah, I'm not advocating any sort of addictive substance or anything in your fishing bait, but obviously people have thought about this stuff over the years. And back in the day, when it was kind of a free for all morally, we moved fish from I didn't, but it was common to move fish around. They got legs going to different lakes, and as I said, people were putting weed in boilies. I do know that was a thing by a very famous angler back in the day. I'm sure people, in their search for creativity, we know what fish need now. There's a lot of science behind it. There's a lot of koi kind of research. We know all about diseases and what can happen here, there, and everywhere. But back in the day, we didn't. People just tried stuff, didn't they? They were just trying to make it better and learn or discover. But I think you look at a city the size of London. One of the reasons why we're in some of the problems we are with the coronavirus is because they were very reluctant to close London initially, weren't they? They tried everything with the tiers, and one of the reasons was because the economy, so many people that live there, and a huge percentage of the entire country's economy comes from around London, which then spreads down to the pollution in the Thames. You've got a huge concentration of people in one place. You've got a hell of a lot of people taking antidepressants, cocaine, recreational drugs, like all sorts, and we're peeing it out, and it's going into the Thames. So I can't see it not having an effect some way. But I'm guessing this is another story you're keeping under wraps for a bit.
We'll see. I'm going to do some digging. I've spoken to the water companies. They've been a bit reluctant to get back to me at the moment, but it's on the back burner, as they say. But we'll see. I don't know. It might be one of those ones that's difficult to prove anything. But if anyone's got any anecdotal evidence, I don't know how you'd think about it. But if you're fishing in a pollution hotspot and you've noticed fish behaviour change, then my inbox is always open.
And I'd probably not advise drinking Thames water to find out if there's cocaine in there. Yeah, probably not a good idea. But I do like this investigative Thom. This go-getting journalism. I like it. It's these little stories to uncover and dig deeper. If you got any interesting things you think Thom could investigate, let us know, because I'm sure he'll, especially in the winter where there's not loads happening, maybe you've got a bit of time to go out and do some digging.
Exactly, the perfect time right now. So yeah, send messages to the Carp Cast or to Carp Feed, or find my social media. Yeah, all good.
Fantastic. Has anyone actually caught any fish? Have you got some reports?
We've had a couple. We've had a domestic one first. We've had an interesting one. When I sent it through to you, I asked the question whether is it an honour or not. But a new lake record carp has been named after Captain Thom. It's a 34-pound. I'm just looking at my notes there. 34.2. A relatively new venue in Essex called Hilton Valley, which I think is run by the carp couture man Darren Hilton. And yeah, this fish is a fast-growing fish. Was caught 25 pounds last April. Now came out at 34.2, and the captor topically decided to name it Captain Thom. I know we've had lakes named after Captain Thom when he was still alive in the sort of initial lockdown. I know there's a complex in Peterborough called Floatfish Farm. They named one of their new lakes, I think, Captain Thom or Thom's Pond. So the fishing world has honoured him. Whether he and his family see that as an honour or something a little bit weird, who's to know? But I'd imagine you'll see a few fish. I know I think there was a fish in Orchid that was called Diana after Diana died in 1997, and I think that was a 40 in Orchid. So it's the naming of fish is a weird and wonderful world, isn't it? So
it is, and imagine if Tom's family are and big naturists and just anti-fish. You don't know, do you? They're not everybody. Is totally behind the ethos of fishing. Do you remember that? I always think of the Alan Blair Urban Banks video where he's fishing on that park lake, and that woman comes and has an argument with him as he's landing a fish. Captain Thom's relatives are of that way of thinking. Then it's an insult, not a. But who knows? I mean, it's. I don't think it's hard not to recognise the fact that people are doing this out of respect for the guy. So
yeah, it comes from a good place, doesn't it? And whether people appreciate it or not, who knows? But it's it's an interesting one. As I say, there's already a lake named after him, and we've had previous examples of fish, that are named for various reasons, as I'm sure some more broadcastable than others. But yeah.
It'd be nice if the people that actually run the country were this honourable that would want to appraise them for doing good stuff for us. It takes human beings outside of that doing things that the government should be doing, and this is not political left or right. This is all governments, doesn't matter who it is. They should be the ones that we're taking our hat off to and going out of the way, pulling the stops out to do stuff for us, or the NHS or whatever. And so, as a wise man once said, anybody who wants to be in power is probably the least qualified person to actually hold power. Because it's ego and other things, I would guess.
Did you just think of Donald Trump when you said that?
Not at all. No, didn't. He definitely didn't say that. But let's definitely not.
Comments about him, I think.
Let's definitely not go down that road. As controversial as we like to be on the Carp Cast, just conspiracy theories and general politics is probably not the good one. It used to be religion back in the day. I mean, no one cares about religion. That's a lie. My mother does. Nobody else cares about religion currently. But any catch reports? I've actually. You were up at Cromwell meeting Nathan last week, Mark, and you said the lads had a big run of tench. There was two lads doing some work with Nathan, and they put the rods out for a bit. They caught a load of tench, which was odd, but they did see carp move, didn't they?
Yeah, there was some carp moving, close in behind that big tree. Is it swim 11 in that corner?
Yeah. 10.
10.
Yeah.
Yeah, 11's Windy Point. But yeah, they were fishing on Windy Point. I think there's about 4 or 5 tench they'd caught, but I'm very surprised that they'd not followed that up with carp. I remember I'd done a winter on the Charlotte Lagoon years back. There was nothing happening for months on end through the winter, and then there was only me and another fella, carrying on through. There's a few fish started showing out in the middle. A few other anglers started walking around fishing for information, as they generally do. Of course, we're denying seeing anything. And then one morning, there's a nice double-figure breeze coming in, and I caught quite a big tench. And then half an hour later, I got the second biggest in the lake, one called the big head fish on the bank. Unfortunately, there were some pike anglers on at the time who saw it, mentioned it to Trevor in the shop, who mentioned it to the Daily Mirror, I think, and couldn't get a swim the next week, but I'd had the fish, I was happy.
It's normally a change in temperature, isn't it, this time of year, and we had a little mild spell, didn't we? I was up at Cromwell for 5 days with Nathan. It was awful. It was super cold. The other lakes were frozen. Then we had a warm spell as I left, and I think a few fish had been caught then. Then obviously we've got this cold snap now. But what reports have you had, Tom?
Well, I just want to touch on that tench thing. It's an interesting one. My colleagues have reported there's a bloke who takes the same week off work every year, same days of the year, for the last 3 or 4 years, and goes to a long stretch of canal and bags up on tench from the same spot every year. And he's done it again this year. No matter what the temperature, it's the same date that he goes on. And he's had a keep net full of tench, which you'd associate with May or June or something like that. So it's an interesting one. Whether tench are fairly closely related to carp biologically, whether it's to do. I know Simon Crowe was always talking about light levels rather than temperature in terms of that spring fishing, that it doesn't really matter what the temperature is. There's more light coming through, and we all notice it, that it's light after 5 o'clock now. So maybe there's something in that. One more catch report. We've had a European catch report. David from Ribière gave me a call last week while these anglers were still on the bank. 2 French anglers, Julien and Alex. So I think Alex is certainly sponsored by Fox. Not sure about his angling partner, but good French anglers. They're on Ribière for 72 hours, and they had 60 carp up to 75 pounds, including 3 60s, 4 upper 50s. They weighed them all in kilos, so I've had to do a few sort of mathematic equations to work it all out. But I'm just there's a full report up on the Carp Feed website, and we sometimes forget about those French holiday venues during the winter, but they're still being fished often by bailiffs or local anglers. I think David wonders whether it's one of the best European winter catches ever. I don't know for certain whether it's right up there, but it's a huge haul, plenty of bait. They were fishing with bait boats, fishing simple pop-up maze rigs, plenty of fish. There's a big gallery up on Carp Feed if you want to see more on that, and just whets the appetite, I guess, for those summer holidays to places like Ribière and many of those well-known holiday venues. But fingers crossed we'll be allowed.
Yeah, there's you mentioned about the bailiff. There's a lake that I always keep an eye on because my friend Roger's been there a few times, but that's a Tang de Saucy. French lake used to have that £100 common in years ago that died. It's not too far from Chanticoq, Lac de Der. And I noticed the bailiff on there was posting a few pictures last week. So I don't think he'd had any big uns, but he was kind of waiting. I think he was catching some good uns, 40s or whatever. He posted 2 or 3 up, and I was thinking, obviously it's impossible for English people to get to, or almost impossible for English people to get to French lakes at the minute. I mean, in all the other lockdowns, that has been the case. I actually spoke with the chap at Saucy about going myself just before Christmas. I was looking to go somewhere before it really got cold, and he said he'd do us a deal on a ticket for the winter, but then obviously this happened and it was almost impossible to get anywhere. But now, it's probably a lot of French bailiffs waiting for a nice, English bailiffs working on lakes in France, waiting for a mild spell to have. It's probably even in winter, it's probably unusual they've not had the lake fish for this amount of time, and there's a few people probably thinking they're going to fill their boots. Once the weather plays ball, but it just isn't really that good. As I said, we had a little window last week. A few fish seem to have been caught. But if you get it right in winter, you can have an incredible session, can't you? As these lads you're saying at Ribière have just had. If you find where they are, and it's quite often feeding spells, isn't it, this time of year? You just get the same time every day, you'll catch a few fish or whatever. But
Yeah, every fish came in daylight, so they were able to sort of catch up on their sleep, and they had 2,645 pounds in just 3 nights between them. So, yeah, good going by anyone's standards.
And I see in the notes that you've sent me, ever organised, record-breaking F1s. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I don't know if F1s are on the radar of every carp angler, to be honest. If you're not aware, an F1 is a man-made hybrid, hybridization of a crucian and a standard carp. And they were bred for the match scene, for commercial match waters. They were known to feed all year round. They would feed in the coldest of conditions. Anyone who knows a lake with F1s will know that they're often the ones that will feed when nothing else will. They weren't bred to grow particularly big. They were bred with crucians, so they were sought to. They're 30 years old this year, so. They were first bred by a bloke called Simon Hughes down at Riverfield Farm, I think it is, in Kent. And yes, their 30th anniversary this year, and they were expected to be fairly stunted, sort of 5-6 pounders at most, to be weight builders, as match anglers would probably call them, known to feed all year round. But increasingly, we're seeing bigger and bigger ones, and sort of well into double figures. So we had one from Manchester that I reported on last year, was 13.8, I think, and we've just had another one that my colleague Chris Hayden is following up as we speak that might be even bigger than that. I mean, there is no official British record for them, but it would be, as far as we're aware, the biggest ever recorded. And they might just be starting to come onto the radar of carp anglers. If you're fishing venues that were stocked 20, 30 years ago with these fish for match anglers, and now the other carp in the venue have outgrown that match scene, and so the whole venue has been turned over to carp anglers, then a few of you might be catching these fish. They've got no barbules, so that's one way to identify them. They can look a bit crucian-y, a bit brown goldfishy, and a bit common carp-like. So identifying them it can be a little bit tricky, but they're just starting to perhaps encroach on carp fishing. So if you've never caught one before, then you might start to see a few of them. They're a bit of a novelty species as far as specimen carp anglers are going, but their sizes are perhaps surprising. Even Simon Hughes, who bred them initially, he's quite surprised by how long-lived they've been and how big they're growing. Probably on the diet of away from match anglers and that incessant fishing, they're probably thriving in these match venues. So in these carp venues.
They're getting to a size probably now where they can get boilies in the mouth, and we know that any fish that starts eating boilies rockets in weight, doesn't it? Because they're so nutritious. We've seen bream records, tench records smashed on carp lakes now, and it's completely down to boilies. But I mean, is it still a thing? I mean, you work with Angling Times, who deals with a lot more coarse angling as well. Is it still a thing that boilies are banned on a lot of club lakes, match lakes, and stuff? Does that still exist?
You do see it. I mean, when I do work for Angling Times, I'm sometimes out photographing course and match fishing events or tackle tests, and so I go to venues that I wouldn't normally go to as a carp angler. And you do. You see some weird bait bans, that are a bit probably behind the times. Banned on supposition rather than actual science or anything any basis. It's whatever the owner turns against, and you do see no boilies, but again, I think. Pellets and things like that, the nutrition level of baits has really sort of rocketed, and I think there's a lot more synergy between carp and match anglers these days. You look at the best match anglers like Steve Ringer and people like that, they really tap into the carp scene, and vice versa as well. If you look at the best match carp anglers in the BCAC, they're following the sort of tactics laid down by match anglers. So there's definitely more of a sort of conversation between the two branches of the sport, and I think because of that, there's probably more bait going in, better quality bait, and these fish, these F1s that are sterile, so they can't breed, that are getting quite big. So just an interesting one, that one.
Yeah, Mark Bartlett's somebody who came to mind who still fishes both. He fishes course matches and carp matches, and is a key member in the England team, and it's definitely sort of crossing over. I used to love crucian carp fishing when I was younger. They're a great species, but the barbules are all part of it. So I wonder why these don't have barbules. I wonder, is that a deliberate thing?
I'm not entirely sure, and I'm not sure. Do crucians have them? I'm not sure. I guess when you do breed the two, then you do get that sort of some aspects of others that come across. But identifying them. I know identifying genuine crucians now is even trickier. That's one big thing. When we get a report of a big crucian, then the first thing our cynical mind says is it an F1 or is it a brown goldfish, which often is the case with claims for record crucians. So there is an argument that F1s are sort of shallow in the gene pool in a way, and pushing crucian, true crucian waters. I bet not many of us could name a water where it's full of true crucians. They seem to be a bit few and far between at the moment.
I used to fish one as a kid. In fact, it's the lake that got me carp fishing. So it was a place called Worley Mere on the Prince Albert ticket in Cheshire near Macclesfield, and that was full of crucians. Biggest one I ever had was about £3, but they did go to £4 in there, which was close to the record at the time. And it was full of them. Float fishing for them was incredible. You'd get a keep net full of them on a good day, but then you'd get snapped up as it was going dark. Your float would go under, and sort of stepped up to £5 line all the way through in the end, catching the crucians, and you still get snapped up, and that was responsible for me becoming a carp angler. So anyone who knows Worley Mere, I do still have a Prince Albert ticket. We work with them with the Northern Angling Show, but I'd love to know if the crucians are still in there. I do plan to go back and fish the lakes that I fished as a kid, just for see if they're the same or if they're how I remember them or whatever. But we've got kind of another species, the hides. Is that kind of like... It's another fish that's been genetically engineered as it was for match fishing, is that like a bream and a roach or something? Like, how does that work, do you know?
You've found my black spot. I'm not entirely sure. There is a big eye that's just been caught. Colin somebody, I can't remember his surname, caught one from a river up in Yorkshire, I think, a really big one, which would be, we've reported on it in the last week or two, £8 or so. I just don't know. I've never come across them. I don't know whether they're particularly where I've grown up down in the Thames Valley. That I don't think there are many around, but I'm not sure they're a hybrid. I thought they were a European fish that had been sort of stocked in. I thought they were common in the lowland countries, sort of in Europe, but I might be wrong. It's definitely a blind spot for me.
You're probably right. I thought they were. Go on, Mark, sorry.
Yeah, I'm thinking along the same lines, Tom. I thought they were European species, which in recent years have become more common as they've been brought over here. I know there's quite a few coming out of the River Don now, which have come from flooded commercial lakes that they've been stocked into.
They're certainly been stocked into commercial lakes, yeah, and now they're in the river system. And I did see some comments from chub anglers a bit annoyed at their presence, that they sort of muscle out or out-muscle chub. But I have to say, I've not had any experience of them. But you can tell you're northern the way you pronounced it, because we do. Our northern readers say hide, and our southerners say hide. But there seems to be a divide between the two.
Well, I always thought it was hide, because I always thought it came from hybrid. I always thought it was known as a hybrid fish, but I have seen it written down as eyed. So we might even be talking about two completely different things. It makes total sense if you're stocking match waters and you're into breeding, crossbreeding fish. To kind of do a roach and a bream, it seems like it'd be a good outcome for that match type of fishing, the way they grow, the way they eat, the size wise and stuff. It probably is a good combination, as a genetically engineered product. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe there is. I've heard them called hides, definitely up here, and I always thought that was hybrid, because I always heard they were bream and roach cross. But I don't know. Investigative Tom can get on that one.
I think if I was pressed, I think they are a separate species. I think roach bream hybrids are different to eyed, but it isn't. Yeah, not my area of expertise. So I'm going to bow out of that debate.
Yeah, fair enough. Does that class as our good news story to finish off with? We need to come up with a name and a jingle for how to end the news bits. But if there's nothing else for now, I'd like to say thank you very much, Mr. Thom Ayres from Carp Feed, and we'll hopefully speak to you next week if you're not too busy.
Good stuff. See you later.
So a big thank you to Thom Ayres. He will be back next week. Check out carpfeed.com for all the news. We did a bit of housekeeping earlier, Mark. There is a way you can support the Carp Cast, and you can win a prize and come fishing with Mark and I, and have a Nash Titan T1 camo bivvy. How much are they? They're 500-600 quid, are they, Mark? There's something like that.
They're around that sort of price range. Yeah, they're absolute like every Titan in the what do they call it? The family of Titans over the years. I've had a few of them. You've had a few of them. I think they're pretty much unbeatable for bivvies.
Definitely. I use the T2 at the minute, big one, and it's not a camo one. I would have liked a camo one, but mine's a few years old. But yeah, if you would like to fish with Mark and myself and help support the Carp Cast, then you can go to carpcirclegiveaways.co.uk. And the cost is £7, which will enter you into. I think you have to answer a question. It's competition, and then we will do a live draw, and I think we'll get a load of runners-up prizes as well. So, if we do 500 tickets and we've got 10 prizes, you've got like a 1 in 50 chance of winning something, getting your money back, or we'll throw some DVDs in, or maybe some bait packages. But the first prize is fishing with Mark and myself. All tickets paid. You'll get a bait package as well. It's a Nash bait package, session bait package you'll get for the session. So the session will cost you nothing other than getting there. Mark and I will give you the benefit of our entertainment or knowledge, should you require any, and hopefully we'll catch a few fish, have a bit of a laugh. 48 hours, we'll do it on Linear or Oxley's or a lake of your choice. If you wanted to come to your lake and it's not a million miles away, then not really a problem with doing that. We will also film it. Jamie Bellhouse, our brother Carp, check out his Crossing Borders film that's about to come out. He's a fantastic filmographer and editor. He does a lot of the Nash stuff. He's going to be making a video of all this, so you will get a copy of that to keep, a bit of a keepsake. This is a money can't buy prize. Fishing with Mark and I, having it all documented, filmed, a professional video made of it, a Nash Titan T1 bivvy. The value of that is worth thousands and thousands, and you can have that for just £7. Get yourself over to carpcirclegiveaways.co.uk, and over the next few weeks we're going to be launching new competitions, and I can spoil and tell you there's going to be one to fish with Scott Lloyd. He's not currently doing tuitions at the minute, so this gives you the chance to fish with him. And Mark and myself, should we both be available, one of us will definitely be there representing the Carp Cast, and possibly both of us. Scott may get permission for us to fish somewhere a bit special, but if not, we'll be doing it on a day ticket lake. Same thing, we'll be filming it, and the cost is £7. So if you go to carpcirclegiveaways.co.uk, then you can enter and support the Carp Cast while you were doing it. And I'm just going to check that actually is the right address. carpcirclegiveaways.com. It is not Carp Circle. It will work, carpcirclegiveaways.co.uk, I'm sure, but carpcirclegiveaways.com is the actual address. I thought I'd just better check that while I was looking. And have you got anything to say, Mark, or should we just get Scott in?
To be honest, I think we should just get Scott in. I'm looking forward to this. It's his third appearance on the Carp Cast, and I had the pleasure of interviewing him for the first two, both before his and after his capture of the Bergfield Common, and he's very, very knowledgeable. And let's hear him. Let's get him in.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of interviewing him this time, and I can say the first half of the interview, we had just a laugh. I hadn't spoke with Scott since probably last year's Northern Angling Show, so it's almost a year to the day when I last had a good chat and a few beers with him, and we really got stuck into having a bit of a chat. If you think it's not too carpy at the start, because we are jumping around and having a laugh, then there's a lot of knowledge bombs come. It's definitely worth sticking with. If I remember rightly, it was quite a long interview because we were just having the crack, and hopefully that comes across and you will enjoy it. So here's Scott Lloyd. Feels like I'm in love. Just like the first time I met you. Yeah.
Right then, let's start. Are we filming yet?
Yeah, we've started now.
We've been filming the whole time, haven't you?
No, I wish I had, to be honest. That would have been pretty funny. Let me have a swig of tea first. Yeah, we like these little bits on the intros and outros for the outtakes.
Oh yeah, I know, that would have been beautiful. Just for anyone that wasn't listening or watching, I was naked when it all started. I'm only joking.
Okay, well, we're going to wing this because no preparation needed. It's Mr. Scott Lloyd. So, I'd like to welcome once again to the Carp Cast, the man, the myth, the noodle, Mr. Scott Lloyd.
Yeah, tell I've been working out. Is this going to be, people going to be listening to this, watching it, bit of both? What's going on?
Bit of both. Week on Friday from now, this one will be out. We've got who's on this week? Crowy's on this week, and next week someone else.
Cool.
You.
So,
you.
Yeah, me next.
So have you actually done any fishing?
No, mate. That's the short version, but basically, yeah, I've been since lockdown, since we last spoke.
All right, well, we haven't spoke for quite some time. You've done a few Carp Cast appearances, but not for a little while. So as you just had the Burfield Common last time we interviewed you. I don't think we've done you since then, have we?
That. Did I catch the Burfield Common?
Allegedly. Did you get any grief? Did you see all this stuff? I mean, we are going to get Greg Ellis on, but did you come across Greg while you were on there? Is it what's to do with this big firm of people that don't like anyone else?
Mate, I don't like souring anything. No, I wasn't on there when Greg was on there. I obviously gave Greg the inspiration. You know, I think I'm his hero. Someone said. But I didn't get no grief really. You know, nothing. I hate that sourness in fishing anyway, mate. You know, people have said all sorts of things to me. You know, these trolls and that online, and mate, I just laugh it off. I can't. I haven't got time for any of that. Like, I literally don't get. I mean, maybe 10 years ago, when I was a bit of a baller in the end, I might have given him a bit of stick back. But mate, I just laugh at it now. But no, I didn't really get much. You know, some people said, you know, bait boating and all that sort of thing about me catching it. But for me, you know, a bait boat is an incredible tool. You know, when if Terry Hearn can use one, anyone can. You know, apart from that, that was about it. Really, it was angry. To be honest, mate, I'd have took it on my first day, stumbled across it, and buddy fell on top of it and gripped it. No, he got put a hook in its mouth. But you know what I mean? Whether you put in 1,000 hours or 1,000 nights or 10 minutes, I don't really care. That fish, you know, to catch it is
by hook or by crook. I'll put some trebles in this thing.
Yeah, it's just so I can't be doing with any of that sourness. I like to enjoy my fishing. You know, social media is a big part of fishing now, so I get involved with that, obviously, filming, and I don't try and sour anything. You know, these things that happen online, I don't get involved with them. I don't mind them in a bit of a WhatsApp group and that. A bit of a laugh in it. Some of the stuff you see flying around these WhatsApp groups is dangerous these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I didn't. I've met Greg a couple of times. I think we met at a show maybe once or twice. Yeah, I've seen him twice at shows, but I never really met him on the bank fishing. Never seen him first ever fish with him. But no, I didn't get any of that sort of crap, if we can say that. Is this X-rated or what?
No. You say what you want, pal. We have an explicit rating, so you can flop your dick out if you want, mate.
I know, I can see it behind you there. I like that. What is that? I like how you look like you're hovering around in the water.
I'll check. Can you see any fish poshing?
Yeah, I've seen a couple in the background there.
Yeah, big uns.
You've obviously not got your rods out.
No.
Still won't catch them anyway.
So let's have a little wind back to last year. So it's been a funny 12 months. We're almost 12 months away from being told we couldn't fish. So I mean, spoiler alert, I did a bit of fishing in the first lockdown. When you're at our level of stature in the fishing game, pal, you get little treats, don't you, every now and again?
Okay. So we're rewinding back 12 months, are we? To when this lockdown started. Yeah, I haven't done much at all, mate. I'll be deadly honest. I did quite a bit coming out of lockdown. Went over to Stoneacres, had some real nice fish over there. I know that we actually did a piece on here, didn't we, on Stoneacres?
That's right.
When I finished up with Bite Mark, but I always said that I'd never go back. There's actually a bit of a funny video going around about me. I had to laugh because I think it was Dan who made it. Wild Boar. Basically, at the end of this Stoneacres thing that I made with Sticky, and my ending line is, and that was me done on Stoneacres, and then next minute I'm back there. So Dan had edited that bit. And then this guy just laughing his head off and I've gone back on it. But basically, the reason I've gone back is because Bite Mark's gone now. There was a few that I'd left behind. It's beautiful fishing. You've been there yourself. You know what it's like.
Yes.
I wouldn't say it's easy fishing, but it's a proper bit of me. I've got loads of love for the place and the people down there. Nick, Bailiff, all that, and his mum. And there was the fish that I hadn't caught. Kev's Linear, No Name Linear, Baby Choco, they were all the 18 now, and I hadn't had any of them, and they're all between 46 to 50 pound. So I thought, I'm going to go back there. I didn't really have much planned to do, so I just went back Stonies, got back on there. I had a good run of fish, good hit of some real nice fish, some that I hadn't had. Yeah. I had a fish called Nemo. It's a real rare one, real mega fish. Loads of good ones. Saying loads, I had a few. And I felt like I kept seeing Kevs with a couple of fish that I'd caught before, pinch belly common. I see it the day before, and then I caught the pinch belly common that night, and I thought Kevs is one fish away, and I literally had to go, and I was heading back down on a Sunday. I got a phone call saying someone had had Kevs, and it was out of the swim that I'd been catching out of as well. I was like, oh no, 49-14 as well it was. Fair play to him, mate. But so yeah, that was me on there, and then I've been off for a while now, mate, fishing. I'm not going to play the violin too much, but I've got a real bad back at the minute. I've got stuff going on. I've got sciatica, which I've had for years, and then I don't know what else is going on with my spine. Something in the middle, there's something called thoracic outlet syndrome and bloody T4 syndrome, and basically what it means is I'm in all sorts of pain, but also I wake up in the middle of the night with dead arms and dead legs, numb. We've all had it where you lean on your arm in the night, you wake up and there's an arm next to you, like, now. And basically get that. And obviously, fishing, I can't be doing that. I've done it. You must have done it before. When you wake up to a bite in the night and your arm's dead. Have you ever had that? And you're trying to grab your rod and you're just basically slapping it. So I've been out of the game, mate. That's why I've got these set of boobs and that extra chin.
Sounds like you need a new bed chair. Who's your potential sponsors that can stick one of them in the post?
Yeah, I don't think there's a bed chair that can hold me at the minute.
This violin, I might have to buy two. What's the score with Stonies? So you said some more have come through. Obviously, the big ones are almost definitely gone now, aren't they? The original big 250s.
Yeah.
What has happened on there, like other lakes, like where the next lot of fish just come through pretty quickly?
Yeah, so basically a couple of them sort of backup 18, well, they've always been 18. Kev's Linear, always hung around that low 40s. And yeah, Baby Choco and No Name Linear, they've all just been sort of coming through. And now Bite Mark, it's the same telltale stuff as we've always seen and said. As soon as them big ones go, other ones come through. And it's the same. Yeah, Kev's has done 49-14, I think it's its biggest weight. It's definitely been £50. I've seen it. I said it was actually after spawning when he caught it 49-14. So who knows? It's a female fish as well. It could have been really big. Got some really nice footage of it. But yeah, No Name 47s. It's done 48s, and then Baby Choco 46, 47. These are incredible fish. I mean, I don't know if you've got the capabilities to run some pictures of these fish over the top of what I'm saying here for those that are viewing, but if they are, I'll send them over.
People will be looking at them now if you send them to me.
Okay, I will send them to you. Depends how much you're going to pay me for them. No, they're not my captures anyway. I'll get some permission off some other lads who've got some real beautiful. That's the beauty of these days, man. The photography of the fish is incredible, and there's a couple of lads who've got some real special pictures of them fish. So I'll get permission from them, and hopefully you guys are all seeing them now.
Yeah. So have you stopped all the tuitions and stuff now?
Yeah, tuitions have stopped. Basically, they were really good. I was loving them. That sort of takes me back. I mean, we'll probably cover from there now. It's worth mentioning, So, yeah, last time we spoke was catching the Burfield Common, and that was me on to sort of Pastures New then. And that year, that's when I started the tuitions. I'll rewind a little bit. So basically, I went from Burfield on to Englefield, next door to Burfield, after a fish called the Baby Black. It's more than out there now. It was a little bit of a low-kept secret, but people know where it is and what it is. So I went over there anyway. I had a couple of nice fish out of there, but I couldn't settle anywhere. I think we spoke since then, and I was telling you about it, and not on the Carp Cast, I mean personally, between me and you. And I went over to St Ives and Shower Pit, had some real nice fish out of there, and I just, again, couldn't settle. I couldn't find something that was really boiling me blood, And a lot of people, some good friends of mine sort of said it's because, after catching a fish like the Burfield Common, and this isn't me blowing my own trumpet, that fish is what it is, and maybe it was that, I don't know what it was, but I just couldn't find the buzz hanging around on one lake, that one target fish, and just grinding it out until it's done. I started dancing around here, there and everywhere, and then ended up back on Christchurch as I do, and some lad ended up asking me if I'd do a tuition, because I think I'd had about, what are you up to there, dancing around on the water?
The dog's chewing a bone and I can hear it really loud, so I'm sure the mic's picking up, so I'm trying to wrestle it off her with my big toe.
I can't hear it, as long as you don't chew through the cable.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, basically I was on Christchurch and I caught a few fish off the surface, caught a couple in the night, and there was this lad down there and he said, "Oh, would you do me a tuition?" I just thought, you know what? And he ended up giving me a few £100 or whatever, and we did a tuition. And he had a PB mirror, PB common, like literally in his first morning, and like the buzz that it gave me was unreal. It wasn't about the money, it wasn't about anything other than that buzz that he gave me when he caught his PB, and the you know what I mean, giving him an organ shake, him being so thankful, all the kind words, and I know how special them fish are to hold, so to hold them as a PB and stuff like that. I buzzed on it, so I just started doing them heavily. I was booking them in every week, bang, 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 and then it just started up. It got to a point where it just sort of tipped the balance, and I wasn't doing any of my own fishing, and I started to miss that. So yeah, I stopped doing them, and basically I think it was a good thing because it gave me that, like I say, by not doing my own fishing, it gave me that buzz back to get back to my own fishing, you know what I mean? And that's been me since.
Yeah, it's, little spoiler alert, we spoke about this the other day, but if you've missed out on a tuition with Mr. Scott Lloyd, then the Carp Cast will be running a competition shortly for a little 48-hour session on linear, or you mentioned we might even get on willows on the complex.
Oh God, that is a spoiler alert. I might be able to wang it, with it being for this, you know what I mean? I might be able to grab us some time over there. I'll have a word with Nick, see. Depends on how busy it is, time of year and that. Obviously, it's a syndicate, but if we can get that involved with it, what, is it going to be me and you?
Be me and you, yeah. And the lucky winner.
Yeah, all right, sweet. I'll bring my notebook because I'll be taking notes if you're doing that tuition.
We can have a little competition, can't we?
How to climb a fence in the night.
Yeah. Not on. I won't be putting any money on your home turf, though. You seem to know that complex like the back of your hand. So yeah.
Yeah, that's it, mate. We won't do that. But yeah, it's sure because so with tuition, we've already agreed it pre to this. I will do a tuition for the Carp Cast, so I'm lucky when I could get a tuition with me and you, and more of a social as well. It's not all
it doesn't have to be
someone wins and
it doesn't have to be a tuition. It can be literally just come and have the crack with us. We'll keep you stocked up in booze and takeaways.
No, I don't do takeaways anymore. I do really.
So you went back to Stoney's. You had a few fish out of there.
Yep.
Has that been it for this year? Is it?
Yeah, I had a couple out of Stonies, and then I've been basically off. I've been winging it in the fishing world, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
No, I haven't. I've recently been actually to Dinton. Basically, I had a gold card for Dinton. People that don't know it, it's 2 lakes. You get a few lakes, but yeah, basically the main ones are Black Swan and White Swan.
Yeah,
I've done a little bit over on White Swan in the spring previous. because I only had a white swan ticket. But last year, at the start of the year, I got my gold card, so I could fish both ways.
Yeah.
Because I basically purposely didn't buy the gold card or one. I never even walked black swan prior to this year, because it is a bit more than me. You know, it's about 90 odd acres. You know, boat fishing, scope fishing. You know, you can't drop your rigs. It's casting, but it is boat fishing. I love that. You know, big old windswept pit in there. But so I purposely went onto white swan to catch a couple of them bangers out there, because you've got that summer triple roll. It's a mega fish, that grey one. I had a couple of fish out of there. I had a good hit of fish, really, but none of the big ones, 18. And then the gold card came up, and I knew how hard of a ticket it was to get. So I just said, you know what, I'll have it. Start this year, got it. And I hadn't been there all year until this New Year's Eve. So I basically spent £1,200 on a dinner ticket and didn't do any nights fishing. But yeah, went there New Year's Eve. I thought, you know what, I'd rather have a bad back at fishing than a bad back at home. Just suffered it. Got myself one of them power barrows now, you know, one of the nasty ones.
Oh, they're good, aren't they? I had to play with someone's, you know, the talk in them is, I don't know, there's two in there, there's a more powerful one, but I flipped it over, and you're running behind it, aren't you? You've got the 3 wheels on it, and just press go and follow it.
No, I haven't gone as far as putting the 3 wheels on yet, but I should do. But mate, honestly, I've called power barrows non-essential in the past and that, but I've got one now, and they have absolutely changed my game. Anyone that sort of knows me, I am a sucker for moving anyway. I'm real mobile, try and travel as light as I can, blah, blah, blah. And that is just enhanced it even more. If there's one thing that's going to put you off a move, it's the barrow push. Yeah. It never put me off anyway, but sometimes you'd be like, oh, God, can't I be bothered to do that? And you'd have to really think, oh, go on then. Okay, I'll go. But now it's like moving is nothing to me, man. I just basically, I'm going to do one with a sat nav in it. So you just program it in, which swim you're going in, press go, and just meet it round there.
And send your bait boat over with the sat nav from the other side of the lake, have a meet up in the middle.
Self-casting rods. I'll just sit in my van, gives a shout when you've got one.
Bring a film crew as well for the results, you know.
Yeah. Well, where was I? So I've got this power barrow. I thought, you know what, I've got power barrow, I've got the comforts, you know, let's go fishing. Went down there New Year's Eve. I was absolutely gunning for it. Not been fishing for a good couple of months at least. We've obviously gone through this mad second lockdown in tiers and all that, and then everything went tier 4. I thought, right, that's it, I'm going. Everyone's tier 4, because they were doing this thing where they keep you out of tiers and all that, weren't they? Everyone went tier 4. I thought, fuck, I'm going. So I've gone down there, and I was gunning for it. And then as soon as I did a lap of white swan, and I was soon like disheartened. I thought, oh God, it's end of December, you know what I mean? Like, I forgot what winter fishing was like. I was expecting to see them jumping out and everything, but I didn't see nothing on white swan. And then I went on to black swan. Still at this point, never even done a lap. And I walked into the first sort of bay that greets you at black swan. And I walked around, looking out, it looked dead. And then as I was walking back, just happened to look out the swim that I was walking past. As you do, you've got to keep your eyes on the water. I'm always like bumping into people and that when I'm walking around, you know, because you're walking looking at the lake, as opposed to looking in front of you. And one just literally slotted out. Literally, it couldn't have been any more perfect timing. Trust me, the lake was dead. It was like they were saying, "Where were you?" You know what I mean? Like
on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, New Year's Eve, and I was looking and I thought, did I just see that? You know, I'd just literally done a full lap of white swan, proper looking, good hour or so, and then a couple of hours of whatever, and it was going dark, so we didn't get down to about 2, so I was trying to do a rush lap, but I was proper looking. Got onto black, and one just slotted out. I thought, no. And then, see all the fizzing coming up. I thought, definitely. So, obviously ran, got the kit, jumped in there. There was only one of them had on, I think. One of them had crazy enough. Put some rods out. Nothing happened that night. I fished on the deck because I see quite a bit of fizzing after the show, and I thought that's definitely gone down. But I soon found out it was bloody 20 foot of water, and they definitely weren't down there. I found out the next morning because it was just ziggy showing. See like 3 like that, just scattering out, and I thought and I ended up moving again the next morning because they were a bit more left of me. Moved one swim to me left, put a few zigs out, and jobs are good. I had 1, on the first night on a 5 footer in 10 foot of water.
Yeah.
And that was a low 20, 23, 24 mirror. And just zoned all the rods into that area for the second night, and had another one, 29, 14, just under 30, New Year's Day. 2 mega fish. There's a vlog just come out on it, actually, over on Thinking Anglers YouTube, if anyone wants to see it. Plug. But yeah, it's just, it was mega to get out, and literally couldn't believe it, because I could have done another night, and I thought, no, you know what, I'll go back, charge up, get my energy back in that, because I'd done 3 nights, it was cold, my back was in bits, I was running out of everything, living on pot noodles and porridge and that, and I was actually eating like a king, to be fair, but I'd run out of everything, and I've started this dry January, and I didn't have any beers, and I just thought, you know what, I'll nip home, do a night at home, and then come back, and when I went home, they put locked us down again. I was like,
so is
getting the buzz back.
Is Dinton shut currently?
Yeah, no, it might be open, but just the locals maybe. It's days only everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah. What has there been any talk? We discussed this on the Carp Cast on this episode, on last week's episode.
Okay.
What some syndicates are doing as far as, because a lot of syndicates, depending on where it ran to, and a lot of them are not cheap. You know, they're £800 plus. You've not been able to fish for some of them as much as 5 months out of this current year. Now, I know we mentioned Stoney's Lynch Hill. Roger's got a ticket on there, and he went there after the first lockdown last year, and there was 220 quid waiting for him. You know, they give some money back, which is great. Obviously, they've had some money from because they have a premises. You know, they haven't really lost any money, have they? The actual owners of the fishing lakes, because they've had the year's money. Plus, they've had a payout off the government because they own some premises. So they've had 10 grand the first time round and a bit more money the second. So I'm just doing a bit of a survey, see which ones are passing that back to the anglers, because quite often the anglers haven't been able to fish for half the year. So what's Dinton doing? Have they offered any money back? Or
I think it's all council run, Dinton, so it's going to be a bit different. Even of course, you know, it's not really a private syndicate, so we couldn't really sort of shine a light on it. But it has given some back. I'm pretty sure the way they've done it is they've knocked me some money off this year's ticket. I think that's the way it's happened. Don't quote me on it. I think I just paid 1,260 quid for the ticket, and I'm pretty sure it should be a bit more. Or I can't remember. They might have given me some. They definitely didn't give me any back, but I'm pretty sure they've knocked maybe 50 quid off or something, which is all right for the council, to be fair. You wouldn't even expect that, would you?
No.
I mean, I've been waiting for the council to say that I ain't got to pay any council tax, for the lockdown. That'd be nice, wouldn't it, for us? Council.
Interesting. So do you think you'll go back to black or white, or what's your plan going to be when you go back there?
My plan is this year, you know, this sort of stems on from what I was sort of saying a minute ago about dancing round now. I think some people will be able to relate to what I'm about to say, and probably yourself as well, Jay. I think my days of long haul swagging it out on one lake for one fish are done. And that doesn't mean... Oh, sorry, mate, I knocked the screen now. That doesn't mean that I'm not going targeting fish. I definitely am. I've got 3 or 4 fish on my radar that I really am gunning to put in my album. So what I'm doing is, I think I've got to a stage in my angling now where I think, you know, the amount of times where I've sat out whole campaigns through dry periods just to fish them sort of good spells. So what I've done now is I've picked a few lakes with the targets in that really fish better at different periods of the year. So I'm sure you'll be able to relate. You know, say for instance like Stoneacres, it's mega in the spring, and then as soon as they spawn and the weed beds start drifting around, the clarity goes, the fish are in a stupid mode. The summer on Stoneacres is wasted. You know, and there's certain times a year on other lakes that you'll know that, and you'll be able to think back, and people that are listening will be able to think, the autumn was crap on there, or the spring was crap on here, you know. And so what I'm doing now is I'm piecing some lakes together. So what I've done is I've got the spring, I'm going to go all guns blazing if we get out for the spring, that is, fingers crossed, everyone. And the plan is to go for white swan in the spring because it fishes mega on the zigs. They get absolutely tanned on them. You know, no one ever did it ever on there, and then all of a sudden, for the last few years, they've been spanked, even all the big uns, everything. So I'm going to go and have some fun over there. and then I could potentially go over onto black swan because that quietens off a bit because it gets a bit of an algae bloom.
Yeah.
But, knowing people like Miles and that have fished in there in the past, he's persisted and he's had really good results, in the summer, So that I'm thinking about going on there for the summer and then over onto another lake that I'm fishing in the Cotswolds for a really big fish that's over there. I won't mention it. Some people will know what the king of the Cotswolds is. Some people won't.
Yeah.
But that one definitely likes a catcher in the autumn. And basically that, I didn't mention it a minute ago, but I will mention it. That's where I did my fishing after lockdown. I did a bit of Stoneacres, and I went over to the Cotswold to try and catch this fish. And Jay, you're not even going to believe how unlucky I was, and I'm 99.9% certain that I lost it. On the big moon, I knew it was due out. And long story short, I'll tell you the full version, sack it. I'm not going to say where it is though. Basically, I was all guns blazing for this fish. It's a big 50-pound mirror, bloody head on it like a bloody... I won't say it, but yeah, it's a big old carp. It's one that you want in the album. And I was on there, and I was doing it, I was grinding it. It's a real hard lake. Everything is against you. It's an absolute nightmare. You know what? Sack it. I'm going to tell you where it is. I was after the fish called the croc. You know the croc? So it's no big secret. It's in the Cotswolds.
Yeah.
I was after that. And the crayfish are horrendous. I mean, worst thing I've ever seen. Like crayfish, they were on Burfield. I've been on a few other lakes that I fished on, but this was next level, mate. I'm telling you, you walk in the margin, they're chewing your toenails off. It's that bad.
There's a few people fish these lakes. Let's go through it step by step. I've fished some of these lakes where the crayfish are so bad you can't keep a bait on for 40 minutes to an hour. It's horrible. Now the obvious way around that is plastic. There's a lot of better ways to weight your pop-ups down now than there used to be with putty and stuff, so you can kind of make them cray proof. But what tactics were you? What did you learn to do? Because you feel like when you put bait in, it's just a waste of time because it's gone in half hour.
Well, you say that, but you know what? I started to learn that once the fish are there, the crayfish aren't there.
Yeah.
When the carp are in the area, the crays are gone. But also, one thing that I noticed, giving a bit of a tactic out here that's a great edge, fishing where other people don't fish was a massive edge. The crays just weren't there as bigger numbers because they're not used to getting fed in them areas. So even some edge spots, and crays are savage in the edge.
Yeah.
I found some edge spots that were untouched, and I could go and bait up there, and I could walk and do a full lap of this lake, 90-odd acres or whatever it is, and walk all the way back round, and there still weren't a crayfish on it. And I go back the next day, and they get savage in the edge at night, and there still wasn't any on it, things like that. So what I started to learn from that, I learned that on there, and I thought, if that's the case in the edge, it's definitely the case out in the pond. So I started fishing real long range, because it used to be bait boat fishing on there, but this year you couldn't do it, or last year even, no bait boat fishing. And I tell you what, the crays noticed it straight away, because I was fishing like 36, 37 rats, which is quite a long way. I don't know if that's a long way to you, but that's a long way to me. That's about my max. But other people can't hit that. There's a lot, I'd say, 50% of people can't hit that, maybe more.
Yeah.
And being able to get, and I was tackling up to get that, you know what I mean? Getting the big rods out, putting the whiplash on, but 5-ounce zip leads, all that sort of stuff, shorten your rigs right down, all them tactics to get that range. And I was getting left alone, and the fish were definitely getting out there. The spot started as stodgy silt, and before I know it, I was getting thumps, and I just knew that was the carp visiting. And I've got carried back into the story then. So crayfish wise, fishing in areas that doesn't get fished is a good one, especially if it's right out, because they don't see much food out there, so that makes sense in people's minds, I'm sure. Fishing rubber, as you say. Don't fish. What's it called? I don't fish any putty. Strip down your putty. Jam your tail rubbers on, or use helicopters, because they will pick the tail rubber off. I lost a couple of fish and aborted takes down to this, because the crays were picking the tail rubbers off in the night, and then Mr. Carp picks you up, runs off, and it's not even felt on lead. And I was pulling out of a couple of fish doing that.
Were you recasting more regular?
Yeah, there's a good one. Yeah, so I was baiting up heavy. I was putting that much bloody bait out. they probably couldn't eat it quick enough, and it really, that's what messed me back up in the end for this winter, because I was spodding at that range constantly. I'm pretty sure that's what's done it to me. But yeah, I was putting a lot of bait out, and recasting. If I felt like I was getting crayed, I was using braid pretty much straight through, fishing a drop in a bobbin. What them crays are on you. You're getting the liners. If I had a liner night, if I had a night where I was getting plenty of liners, where I knew it was cray trouble, I'd bring them in at midnight, whack them back out. So just from that, I was fishing big areas, so I could hit big areas with a night cast. You know what I mean? Waste of time trying to fish these little holes with crays about, because you're going to have to recast in the night. Recast at 4 a.m, generally half 4, because you want that 6 o'clock bite time. What
about rigs? Like resetting rigs, sort of thing. Rigs that'll
resetting rigs. But one thing I definitely learned, which was totally the opposite of what I thought when I first went on there, and what I've always thought about crays, was pop-ups not being the one. I thought pop-ups would be better out of, out of the way, out of reach and that. But what I noticed, and this came through testing in the edge. I did so much testing in the edge with them, playing around with these buddy crays, trying to find something that they didn't like and what they didn't play with. But also, the pop-up rig, what I noticed is, by it standing out like a sore form, they honed in on it. But not only that, once they did get hold of it, because when they let it go, it pops back up, they pulling it back down. And what it's doing, and the hook went blunt so quickly. Whereas when it's on the bottom, it's mimicking everything else, so it didn't get sucked out like a sore form. But also, when it is there, they just go over the top of the bait and they're just nibbling away at the bait. The hook's just staying on the bottom, so they're not jamming it down, whacking it to the gravel or whatever you're fishing over. So fish on the bottom, I would say, get that hook down.
Yeah, I found that Snowman was kind of better. The thing is with the pop-ups, they crawl along it, so it don't matter how high it is, zigs or anything. They just go along the hook link and flatten them down to the ground, don't they? So
that's it. And like I say, if they let go of it or it gets it and it pops back up, they've got to pull it back down and they're jamming that hook over it. Oh God, I assume we learned it pretty quick, but again, it came from that test in the edge. Shrink tubing. They do all a good old go at that. Just basically, you're almost going back to 20 years, just getting rid of everything off your rigs. And I was using number 4 shots and things instead of putties and little. To be honest, they didn't get. They definitely like the putty, but they weren't so bad with rubber. So like them tungsten XL droppers that Thinking do, they were mega. I was doubling them up, and it was taking them a long time to get them off. Once you did get on them. Just up my leaders and stuff like that. Lead core's a big no-no. They'll take the lead straight out of that, shoot that to death. It's just basically you just want to have an invisible hook. Savage, absolute savage. But I'm sure people can take stuff from that. Definitely.
Yeah, it's as you said. If you're fishing a lower stock lake with crayfish, it's bloody hard work because you don't get that many chances on the fish, and there aren't always enough fish to move the lakes, but to move the crays. But I think a reasonably stocked lake, as I said, when you're getting crayed out, you're probably not going to catch a carp anyway, so it's not really costing you any fish. It's just if fishing a low stock lake and the fish, they come over you in the night and you haven't even got any bait left or your rig's all tangled or something. I've fished a few lakes with them over the years and it's, some really bad ones and it's frustrating as hell.
It's just about persistence. All you're doing is fishing for that one bloody window, and them windows are so short-lived anyway on a normal lake without crays and all them sort of things. So you just gotta just keep persevering and don't think, oh no, I won't get up and recast. Get up and recast. Otherwise, you ain't got a cat in else chance, mate. And it paid off, I swear to God. This fish shone twice on my spot. Once before I had to go, and I thought, God, I need to stay, but I couldn't pull any strings. I had to go and levered it with a couple more buckets of bait. And that's another thing as well. I was using a lot of like bits and bobs. Everything was mush and crap, and just so when these crays did get on you, it took them so long to clear up. Rather than you give them 5 kilos straight boiling, they're going to nail that in seconds.
Yeah.
So I was just giving them everything, and I came back the next session, and I was all guns, mate. The moon, it was the October big moon, and it had actually come out on the exact night the year previous from the exact same swim, but totally different area, same swim, but I was on the lake opposite when the lad caught it, and I knew it was due out. I'd seen it bouncing. I knew where I needed to be, but this year it's my turn in the upper spot where I thought it was. I've been baiting it for weeks and weeks, and I got the rods out, and then around about 1 in the morning, I've had this melting take, and it just stripped me, got in some weed, managed to free it, and it just hit the surface and waddled all the way. Obviously, I'm 35, 36 wraps out, whatever. And it just waddled all the way in, flashing around on the surface. And this fish is known. As soon as it did that, I thought, I've got him. This is him. Because I know a lot of the lads that have caught it says it does that exact thing, hence the name, the croc. It does the crocodile roll. Yeah. Gives up. Hasn't got a massive fight in it. And it just rolls around, and it was doing it all the way in. I just thought, just keep coming. And literally about 10 yards out, started to see it rolling just outside of the light level. I mean, the moon was booming down, so everything, but I could just see the ripples. And it kited a bit to the left. I put a bit of right hand down on it, and the fucking up came out, mate. And people will be thinking, how did you know it was it? So obviously the fight gave it away, and I was convinced it was it anyway. And then the next day I've gone to the left of me where snags are, and it was sat in there on its own sulking, and it sat there for 2 days. And I just gave in then, mate. I thought I definitely lost it. And it was massive. Would you believe that? I've had some bad luck on there, mate. I actually did have another fish out of there just before, I think, and I got it in the net, and I put my net. You know when your net float comes off your finger when you take it out your van, sometimes your net float will come off your landing net, and I put it got to me swim, and I didn't have my landing net float, so I put it had this fish in the night, and I put it in the net. And I had a pole what I was casting from. Because I didn't have my net float on, I thought, right, I'll just throw my net over that pole there with the fish in, because my other rod was going. So I picked up this other rod, thought I'm having a double take here. It was going off. There's only 20 fish in there, 90 odd acres. I thought was going on. And it turned out to be a 10, so I just cranked that in quick, unhooked that, gone back to my net, and the woody net had landed in the little tiny triangle, you know, where your spreader block is, where there's no net. It had landed perfectly through there, sank to the ground, and the bloody fish had got out. I was just looking, there's a 30-pounder, mate, easy. I only had a little glimpse of it, unhooked it, threw me rod behind me, and I got on the other rod, and the fish got out. So how was your luck? That was 2 week sessions, so I bloody let one out of the net, and then lost what I think was the big one.
Is there no problem with otters on that particular one? I know that whole Cotswold water park has had a few problems over the years. I've fished down there a lot myself since I was a kid, so one of my favourite parts of the country for fishing. Beautiful part of the country, just for anything. Just even sitting in the pub having a bloody Thatcher's is nice down there. Yeah, but we won't get into that. Didn't have any messy nights down there with Mitch, I promise. No, of course not. Mitch Hammonds loves a drink. But anyway, Otto's wise, mate. They're absolutely ripe in the area, as you well know what you said there. But luckily, they have been seen on there, but you know how everyone sorts of sees them. I'm not saying that they haven't been seen on there, because I'm pretty sure they have. Yeah. But I haven't seen anything. Nothing as bad as like what's over on Burfield and that, where it's bloody coming through like it's bloody school day or something. Are they bad on Burfield now? Oh, savage, mate. I've seen the petition, not petition, like the fundraising thing that they've been doing on there on Burfield, but you can't even fence all of it, can you? So there's no point doing it unless if there's any sort of gap. That they'll just follow the fence till they find the gap. That's what they do, isn't it? Yeah, they will do. But you know, even when I was on there, I spoke to Phil Greenacre who owns it. You know, and they were bad then. And the only place I ever seen them was like down the Dogleg and that, like along the riverbank, because they've got the Kennet runs straight down the side of it, and it's quite a steep bank, but they would come up there. You'd see the little trails where they'd come up, and obviously
So I said to Greenacre, I said, you want to fence the riverbank, just 200 yards, 300 yards of the riverbank. And I'm pretty sure, it would go around it, but I'm pretty sure someone would come up that bank, see that fence, and then just jump straight back in the river, hopefully, because it was nowhere near the lake. They've got about another 100 yards to get to the lake in some parts, you know what I mean? So they'd have to go across they'd have to go all the way around the fence and then across quite a bit of land. And I just feel like, I think some otters would just jump up, jump out. I don't know. I don't know what otters do, if I'm honest. But they were bad when I was there, and I know my brother still fishes on there now. He's still got a ticket, and it's just got worse and worse. Obviously, a couple of other lads still on there that I kept in contact with. And
there's a lot of fishing there. That's a problem, isn't it? It's a lot for them to keep coming back for, isn't it? Some of them Cotswold ones are not that well stocked, and they're going to go to the ones that are well stocked, aren't they? I guess.
That's it. I see them everywhere. The more you're driving around waters and walking around waters, and if you're on the ball walking about, I do a lot of lapping, and you just see even signs of them. You don't actually see loads of otters just running around, but I've seen loads over the time, and they're quite bad in Oxford. But Lynch has always been quite lucky. It did get hit. Touch wood, that is. Touch wood. They've always been quite lucky, and I always say that the reason for that is if you look at Lynch from a bird's eye view and you'll and put it onto like the satellite view, you'll see where Lynch is, and the river actually goes around Lynch like a big old sort of half like a circumference around it. And there's loads of lakes, so the river's actually nowhere near Lynch. It's mad real, and I think that's what makes Lynch a little bit different in that area, because I know a lot of other lakes get absolutely trashed in that area. But Lynch, I'm pretty sure it's just down to perfect placement, obviously for no other reason. They obviously didn't do it purposely, but if you have a look on a bird's eye view of it, the river goes well away, all the way around the Lynch complex, luckily. Yeah, I'm sure they'll find a way in there, mate. But they're fencing Lynch as well, by the way. They are doing that.
Oh, are they?
They're doing it, mate. Big old job, it's a big old complex, in it, but they're doing it. Yeah, full fence. Are
you in the that old school Carp Society group on Facebook? You had a look at that? It's cropped up recently.
What's that about? No.
It's like just one of them Facebook groups that's cropped up, but it's quite a lot of people commenting in about the history of a lot of the lakes. And Paul Harris, who you may or may not know, he did a book a couple of years ago, but he's from Oxford. He's done a hell of a lot around that area. But he was friends with like the guys that stock the lakes, really, from the old ARC Horseshoe and stuff. And he's just been posting loads of history about Oxford recently, to the point he's actually one of the lads that's been chipping in as well. He's doing a book, history of Oxford, basically. Oh, nice. I just wonder if you knew him. Yeah, he's a good old guy.
No, I've not seen it, but anything that's good for the good of the fish, mate, I'm into.
So I mean, tactics. Can we get a few little noodle nuggets for? I need a jingle for that, don't I? Noodle nuggets.
Noodle nuggets.
We've got Scott on the spot, which we never really used, did we?
No, we didn't. Yeah, that would be a good one. When you said about that Scott on the spot, that'd be a good one. Are you telling people what that was going to be about, or maybe about?
It was basically going to be if we had a random question or we're recording a Carp Cast, then. Basically we get something I think you can answer or not answer, then we just do a quick Scott on the spot. But
just ring me.
There's another little angle here I forgot. There's a game some professional poker players called Loddon Thinks, right? So Loddon is a guy called Johnny Loddon, and he's just got like a random answer for whatever it is. So the game is, it doesn't matter what the correct answer is, it's what you think he would answer. So we could do something similar with Scott on the spot. So we could ask you something about something completely random, and the right answer is what you would have said, not what the actual answer is.
I'm with you. I mean, I just quite like the idea of you ringing me randomly while I am, buddy. I don't know what I could be doing. I could be in the bath. I could be 100 metres up a tree, working on the overhead line, 25,000 volts, and my phone rings, and I'm like, mate, what I mean? Like,
Scott, we've got a question.
Kind of a bad time now.
I don't care, but that's the whole point of putting on the spot. All right, well, I've still got the jingle, so I don't see any reason why why we can't do this. We're going to be doing, we might even do it at the weekend, actually. We're going to be doing like a Carp Cast virtual pub. Obviously, we can't go to the real pub at the minute. So I don't know if you remember the episode 100 that we did, where we got a few anglers on the thing. In fact, Frank Warwick drank a bottle and a half of whiskey while we were on it, and had a stroke the following day. So, that's not even an exaggeration. He was very sick, and I'm hoping I wasn't too responsible for that. But we did a 7-hour live stream, and then me and Frank carried on telling stories for about 2 hours after after it finished, until we both fell unconscious. That was pretty much it. But yeah, we're going to be doing maybe one a month of those, where we just get a few anglers on. You can dip in and dip out, but the only rule is you've got to be drinking.
Oh yeah, I'm game. I'm drinking here on the slide. That's why I keep just nipping off the screen just for a quick one. I'm only joking. I'm not. But
yeah, if we can invite you to, can you think of I put Scott on the spot now? Can you think of a name for a Carp Cast virtual pub? Like the cast-in, last cast-in. Like the Perseverance on Raisbury, or you got the Horse and Barge, which is a very famous one from Hutchie days. So
I know. Yeah, you got to have something like booze or ale or beer in it, or something like, haven't you? The booze. What's it called? A Carp Cast, isn't it?
Yeah, the cast-in.
Carp Cast. The Carp Cask of ale.
Oh, okay. Carp Cask. Yeah, that's a good one.
Carp Cask.
Off the spot.
See, Scott on the spot. Noodle nuggets, that's where we were at.
Yeah, the noodles nuggets. Yeah, well, maybe we can do two. We can have a noodles nuggets.
Get the nuggets out, is that what you said? I would always say, so noodle nuggets, I would say... noodle nuggets, can't believe I'm doing this. I would say, what's this? So best sort of things that I would say in my angling, would you say? Or you're talking... Let's just say, I would say that there's definitely 3 things that I like in my angling that I think that make a big difference. Obviously, watercraft, massive. I know you're big into your watercraft.
Yeah.
And I always bang on about it, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. But yeah, watercraft's a big one. And then end tackle-wise, I would say that braid has changed my game, Jamie. Honestly, mate.
What, braided mainline or?
Yes, braided mainline. Honestly, it is a game changer. It should be. I don't understand. I mean, we can talk about the rules right now if you want. I don't understand why it's banned on a lot of places, braided mainline.
Yeah.
I know that they said it was down to, a lot of tearing and mouths and things, but I mean, the way I mean, maybe back in the day, but clutch control so great now, and back lines, people are on these type of things. But the thing is if you get a fish in the weed, you've got a better chance of moving it with the braid anyway, rather than the mono. You know what it's like on them savage weedy wakes, mate. You get in there, you just got to stretch your mono, cut it, and lose the fish and leave it trailing.
Yeah.
I'd rather be able to move. I can walk backwards and move the biggest of weed beds.
Yeah.
But braid fishing has changed my game. But the thing is with me is I combine it with a 4-carbon leader that's like 20 feet, about 20 foot of 4-carbon. So there's me bungee, that's me stretch. So when I'm playing the fish, I can get at, it's not direct, so it's all, pokey with it. It's a nice little bit of bungee, just to give it that little bit of play. But also, the beauty of the braid, man, like just hitting tight, small spots. You just know the difference between with the mono, man. I casted mono out not long ago, and I was waiting for this drop that just wasn't there. And it's I was like, what the hell? But,
you're preaching to the converted. I've done a lot of boat fishing as you have over the years, and when you're using braid, on the boats, you get used to playing fish on them. You can feel every twist and turn, like you just feel like you're in control, don't you? And the same thing if you're extremely spotty, as Scotty on the spotty, and the spots within the spots and all that. Like, you feel you're looking for spots with normally a marker rod with braid, and then you're trying to feel the same thing casting with mono. And it just ain't there. Not to mention, if you get, when you're fishing really weedy lakes and you're looking for tiny, tiny spots, quite often you're literally just a lead on the braid, you're bumping through the weed, so you get any sort of drop, not enough of a drop to pull a marker float out of. If you had a marker float on, it's too small to pop up. And then, So you find in a hole, you clip it up, you can find it every time as long as you hit it right, and then you put nylon on to try and find that same hole. It's impossible.
That's it. I've got some mates who use their rods, their fishing rods as their wedding rod now, just for each spot. So they'll get the left-hand rod and find a spot, bang, yeah, that's it, the clip's on, it's perfect, you ain't got to mess around wrapping it, wind it in, clip your rig on, off you go, bang.
Yeah.
But let me just jump on something that you touched on. I was trying not to forget it, so I didn't even listen to anything you said then. When you said about spots within the spots, I'm going to give a big old edge away in. Well, I'm not trying to preach to the choir or teach people anything, but if there's people listening who are trying to pick up on things, a massive edge of mine is that spot within the spot thing. Yeah, and I'm going to give you a for instance now. And the thing is I spent a lot of time watching fish in the edge, from the boat, from trees or whatever. Out in the open water, underwater cameras and all sorts these days, and you'll very rarely see people say to me, where's the spot within the spot? And the thing is, it's the edge of the spot. I'm sure you'll back me up. Other people that are listening probably thinking, yeah. You never see a fish just go into that centre of the gravel straight away. Or it is a good reason why then to actually make you believe in this is if it was all about, I'm holding, for those that are listening, I'm holding my fingers together and creating a little circle. If it was all about this little tiny piece of gravel, why would the spot get any bigger?
Yeah,
it only gets bigger because they're eating the edges of it. Yeah, they're ripping the edges of the. That's where the goodness is. There's nothing in that gravel for them. Yeah, they'll suck on the gravel, banging it against the teeth, but it's all in the edge of that spot. Any naturals that have been on there sucking on the bait will disappear into that edge, and it gets bigger and bigger because it's the edge of the spot is where you need to be. If I'm placing a rig in the edge because I've seen them in the edge, I'm going to put it on the edge of that spot. I've seen them work a spot one way and then they give up that way and they started going the other way off the edge, and it is all about that edge. And what I'm meaning about this is when I'm casting now with the braid, I can cast out and I'll put a couple of feet on. When I find the perfect wraps, I'll drag it to the edge of the spot. When I'm trying to find a spot, let me put this in a good way. When I'm trying to find a spot, I want to try and fish either the front edge, the left, or the right, or the back if I have to. I don't generally like the back because I've got to put my line through the gravel then. But I'll try and find the front of the spot. But what I'll do is, say for instance, it's 12 wraps, yeah, just to make it easy. It's 12 wraps. If the front of the spot is 12 wraps, I'll clip up at about 12.2 with my fishing rod, and I'll get that crack, and then I'll just pull back. Do I feel it stop on the gravel? Because I've got braid on my braided main line, yeah, and I'm fishing a dissolved bull nugget or a pop-up rig, so there's no dragging the hook on the gravel, or you're going to pull it into crap, or you're going to bunker up, because that pop-up's sitting up in the air if you're pulling that lead back instantly. So I'll get that crack, and then I'll pull it back until I hit the edge of the spot, and then that's where I'm fishing. I'm right on the edge. And that is a big edge. To be able to do that is a big edge in my fishing these days. I would cast and cast and cast that mono, and there's no chance you know whereabouts you're landing on that spot. You can't drag it back. You can't feel gravel through mono. Not to that extent anyway. So big edge there. Yeah.
It's. I mean, I've had these conversations with people like yourself. I one of my biggest skills. I've mentioned this many times on the Carp Cast. One of my biggest skills was that. Getting the ins and outs of a duck's arse on a spot, and it's like when you're fishing multiple rods on one area as well, which I like to do quite a lot. You keep, quite often you'll fine tune them in the fact that, sometimes it's your middle rod that keeps going, and it's like, so then you move your right one over to where your left one was, and you keep moving across it, and that's how you keep finding.
100%.
You just keep shifting it around. Just don't accept that the middle rod keeps going. You start moving the others and try and getting the others going as regular as your middle rod or your right hand rod or whatever. And as you said, it's always the edges, isn't it? And quite often when fish are feeding on the spot, they'll push the bait around to the edges as well because I think they feel safer because it's you see it when you're fishing on a boat. Quite often I've seen. You bait up like a middle of a spot. I always put bait on the spot and then pull the rig like to the near edge of it usually. So you want the lead. If you're boat fishing, you place the lead just in the weed and the rig on the spot, of generally. But it's quite often you'll bait up and you'll see that a lot of the boiler's been pushed to the edges of the spots. And I don't know if that's naturally them rolling there or whatever.
Fish feeding, wafting around with the pecs and that, I learned a hell of a lot from that underwater filming that I did over at Lynch. I don't know if you've seen it, mate, or if anyone else has seen it. Did some underwater fishing, over on Willow, and so much learned, a lot of confirmations of what I already knew, and then some new things learned, without a doubt. And yeah, just touching back on what you were saying there, it's not just about it. This is the beauty of being able to get a rig onto the edge of the spot now. It's not just that's where you want to be because the fish eat off the edges more. And like you say, they're definitely a bit more, not as wary feeding off the edges in the middle. When they're in the middle of that spot, they're so, the cages, anything. But the beauty of it is as well as the camouflage. So going back to what you said, when I boat fished on Stoneacres, I'd never just drop a lead in the middle of a bloody spot and a rig. It was so blatant, so I'd be so meticulous to get that lead in that little bit of weed there and kick that rig out, and just so the hook was just sat on the gravel or the clearish bit, so it was still fishing and not in some weed or dirt or whatever. That's the one. So if you can do that now, going back to the braid, which was what we started talking about this, I can now pretty much present a rig right on the edge of that spot. And generally as well, I've noticed it, I've done it before where I've cast it out and then got out in a boat and having a look how it looks. Because I've dragged it, you've picked up a little bit of crap on your lead and that on the way back. So as it's sat on the edge of the spot, you've picked up a load of crap that's actually helping your lead camouflage you into the edge of the spot. You know what I mean? It was a great little edge and something I've always done from now. Yeah,
it's fantastic. So going back to like the braid, I wished, when I've had seasons boat fishing, which quite often if you're towing long ways with boats, you have to use braid, really, it's essential. But you get so used to using it, it's like it feels dirty going back to nylon again, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, can't do it. I would love for anyone to. I've actually had the rule lifted on a couple of places that I fished because it's just. I kind of see this braided mainline written into rules as like this one of these old English sort of club rules, no braided mainlines, and it's just sat there for years and years, as well as no radios and no tin cans and all them other rules that sat there for no reason. Yeah, no nuts, God. What?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not saying break the rules, always question it without a doubt, or at least ask for good reasoning behind it. But the way we fish these days, we've got beautiful bending rods that take away compression, and all them things. Use a Fluoro leader, good barbed hooks that sit solid in the same place. We've got loads of great new tools in fishing that sort of allow us to be able to do this in my eyes. And braid fishing, honestly, man, first time you get around to doing braid. Well, people obviously led up with braid, so you know what that donk feels like. Bang, like that. Imagine that on your fishing rod every time. Bang, yes, that's it. There's no second guessing if that cast went on that spot. That's it. That's a bite. That's it. Simple as that.
So I don't know if you remember from when in the early days of the Carp Cast, Mark and I used to rave about a particular line called P line, and one of the reasons why we like that line is I was looking for a nylon when you have to use nylon. I was looking for a nylon kind of after, one with the minimum amount of stretch. So most nylons got between 10 and 20% stretch. Now, if you're fishing at 100 yards, like that's 20 yards of stretch. You can probably get your bobbin to tighten up to, maximum. One of the reasons why we like this P line was because it had 6% stretch. But then if you just use pre-stretched lines, they go like cotton, like if you try and use one that hasn't got any stretch in at all, like braid, yes, you can feel more, but they tend to not be too reliable.
Without a doubt.
Yep. So, like, what's your favourite line? Given everything we've just said, if you have to use line again now, what are you going for?
If I had to go back to mono type thing, I'd use fluorocarbon.
Yeah,
I'd use Fluoro, definitely, just because try and find one that's just not stretchy. That carp line is pretty good. I tell you what, Finken Anglers are working on some mega lines at the minute, and that's not just me trying to plug it.
Yeah,
I just know how vigorous they are with the testing. We've been working on them for about 3 years now, and just because they've not been quite right, we're not releasing them. It's not just. I'm not saying other companies just throw them out there, but we want to get it bang on. And it be right. But yeah, the braid that they're doing is incredible. But the mono that they've got is a real low stretch, great casting mono. But that carp line's great. I've been with Porter in the past. Carp line's really good. You actually get a little bit of sensation through that great casting line.
Yeah.
I don't know, mate. You know what? If I didn't have my braid, if I couldn't fish braid, it'd be a really big rule that would probably put me off fishing a certain lake these days, because I believe that it's a lot safer when I've untethered a lot of fish in my time of fishing, probably more than a lot of people, and that's just not. I'm not trying to say, I'm dead hard or anything. I'm just because I spend a lot of time looking, climbing trees, looking in the places where the fish are going to be tethered, and I'll see them, and I'll obviously jump in and grab the line, pull them in, or cast over the line and bring them in, and it's always been mono. It's always been mono, and people might say, oh well, 90% of people use mono or whatever. But what you've got to think is if a fish gets into a weed bed with a load of braid around it, at least because it's got no stretch in it, it can use that pressure, that direct pressure, to its advantage to be able to shake that hook out. But when it's mono, I've seen them in the weed beds and in the trees just shaking, and it's just stretching, and they've got no hope. They're just hanging on a bungee. It's like if you wanted to bet your chances of being able to get off a rope or a bungee cord, you'd bet your chances on the rope because you've got no stretch, so you can just be like wriggling out of it. But a bungee's just going to be bouncing you around, isn't it?
I completely agree.
I'd say it's a lot safer. Honestly, I think the fish, if it's trailing braid, I've never pulled in a fish that's trailing braid. Simple as that.
That's because they're dead under the surface. That was a joke, everybody.
Yes, okay. But yeah, the braid wise, I like a sinking braid. I like a casting braid if I need to get far, because if I'm fishing 35, 36 wraps, with mono, I definitely ain't getting a drop, am I? So I like a nice thin casting braid, whiplash to get distance. But this sinking braid that we're doing now, thinking it's not out there, but it's like the old bullet braid, you know what I mean? You remember the bullet braid? That was the one.
Of course,
yeah. The quarter stuff's great as well. And I'm not too sure about other companies. That's not me knocking other company stuff. I just haven't used everyone's braid. So I'm just sort of saying which ones I've used and are great. But this one's really good that we're doing now. And I can't really say too much about it, I suppose. But yeah, it's more than out there now. People seem to be using it on videos and that. So
there's never been the perfect line yet, because the line it's so subjective, because it depends on the use that you want for it. Do you want do you want it to for field? Do you need it massively abrasion resistant? Do you need it for casting? Like there's no, it's impossible to have a perfect a kind of a one fits all type
all
thing.
All rounder. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because
I'd say anything that's 100 yards or less, I can cast this braid with a 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. This is 25-pound braid sinking with a 25 to 30-pound fluoro leader with a big leader knot on it. I can cast that 25, 28 wraps at a push, and that's enough to be fishing anywhere. But, if I'm going further, but I'd say that's a pretty much all round. The fluorocarbon to go with it is just an absolute edge. Why more people aren't doing it, I don't know, but I'll keep that edge forever. I don't think so. Is that a fish behind you there, mate? See one bosh out.
I'm rabbit watching me. I'm facing the wrong way.
Well, yeah. Let's move on from lines anyway. Don't like all
cool. Well, I mean, we've been at least an hour now.
Have we?
Yeah, it always flies.
I haven't even spoke about any fish. What about when I caught the baby black? Let's talk about that.
Go on then.
I was only joking.
I thought we were getting to the point where you haven't actually done much this year. So you were unlucky on Croc Lake.
But bloody hell, I caught we haven't spoke since the Burfield Common, Jay. That was about 4 years ago now. This spring, that was 2017, mate. I've caught a couple since then. Come on, give me some justice.
Come on then. What would you say you're most proud of then in the last sort of post Burfield? Like give us a success story, something nice.
I would definitely say the baby black was the one. I haven't had loads of massive big fish in between, but definitely the baby black.
I didn't know you caught that.
Did you not know?
Tell us. Give us the info.
It was just a real good time, and I'd done a lot of time on there after Burfield. I went on there for the spring, had a couple, and shot off, came back again. It was again that time where I was dancing around, and I knew it was a big moonfish, and I'd done my time on there and learnt plenty on that place. So I felt like it was justified and deserved in a sense. And I went back randomly because I think what had happened. I think Dinton had shot for spawning, I think, or something like that. And I just ended up thinking, you know what, I'm going to go. It was the big moon. I was going in to go fishing. I just went down there randomly. I hadn't fished there all year, and this was like probably must have been June time or something. And I just randomly turned up there, had a walk around and that, did a night, didn't see anything. And the next afternoon, see one scatter out right down the other end, so end up moving and then moved again and found them. So I'm cutting through the story. Basically, what made me fish there was the watercraft. Where, I just found them, applied, and I caught it, mate. But there's some really good videos that I was actually bogging at the time. And the great videos for people to watch, I've put them on my Insta and that, just of like birds spooking, swans chasing the carp, pecking into the water, grebes spooking off the fish. Grebes are dead hard, they're hard to spook. So I knew it was big carp, and just all these little things told me where I needed to be, and it all fell into place, and I got this. And I just knew it was there because it's got this crusty dorsal and it was flicking it out of the water. And I seen it do that from the tree, so I knew it was one that did it. And yeah, I just got it right, mate. And buddy had it. Just second night back, just random turn up on the
second night.
Yeah, second night back. Yeah, but he did one night and then had it on the second night. Yeah, but again, it was all that past experience of that lake that I sort of knew the zones and where they could be, and I knew my way around the place, so it wasn't just like a random turn up and banged it out, although it was at the same there was a lot of factors leading into the capture, which I was buzzing to get that one out of the way, because it was sort of really getting out there in the open about where it was, and that was getting busier and busier, and when I first started there it was quite quiet, just a few people knew. It's probably my fault.
Yeah. Do you catch it straight off? You catch it straight off the bottom with overbait sort of thing?
No. Basically, tackle wise, mate, I had to go so deep into my head of what I was doing here, because I was fishing quite shallow water. Birds are savage on there, even swan depth. And I was fishing over all this eel grass, and you know what eel grass is?
Yeah.
It's an absolute nightmare. There was tiny holes in it. It was like literally I'd say it was about 4 foot of water, these little gravelly holes. It's like these little mad finger bars that are sort of broken up that where I was fishing. So I knew they were there. The fish were hanging in this weed, obviously, and there was just these little holes. And I was I had to scale down in lead size to 3 ounces rather than 5, just because it was that shallow, you wouldn't get your drop, you know what I mean? You had to be quick on it. So it was a 3 ounce lead, and then I thought, because I was fishing over all this eel grass, my braid was pretty much on the surface all the way out for a good 30 yards. If any swans and that came through, they were going to drag me leads. So I didn't want to fish on the bottom. So I decided to use hinges. So if I did get any liners and that in the night, I knew that the hinge would still be fishing. Literally just little tiny tweaks into what was going on. And I ended up having to bait the swans off to the side all night pretty much. Hello, Maisie. There's me done. Hello. She wants a bit of this.
Taking fishing with you?
No, I don't know. Hello, girl.
That's a Labrador.
Lab. Yeah, yellow lab. She's clever. She's good. Not like me. But yeah, that was it. Yeah, baby black, 46 something. Bill, it's not a P45, 46. I can't remember. Is it my PB mirror? I ain't got a clue what my PB mirror is anymore, mate. £62, 8 ounce common. 8 ounces bigger than Greg's as well, so when he's on next week, £2, 8 ounces bigger than Greg's, that's it. Sure is was bang on £60. I'm a bit dubious about that weighing.
Just call it 60.
Yeah, court's caught in it though, mate. I took it for £49 if it was me. Okay.
It just goes to show what you were saying there about just these little tweaks. It seems so normal when you're speaking to people that are obviously in the top, 1-2% of anglers out there. But it's just like, I did this because of this. It's like it's constant problem solving, isn't it? So like it's a shallow water. I'm not feeling a drop. One way around that is to use a slightly lighter lead, or if you're not feeling a drop, presentation can be a problem, so you want a rig that's always presented however it lands in the water, if it dives in or whatever, which a hinge stiff rig is going to do that. I use sort of fluorocarbon stiff links, like the fluorocarbon booms everyone uses now with the crimps or whatever. If I'm if I'm going for extreme range, a lot of these Croatia waters, you want to be fishing 150 meters plus, which is like 165 yards. It's right at the extreme of my casting range with right gear, and you're not hitting the clip always at that range. So You want to know it's fishing. It might still be a good cast, but you've not hit the clip perfectly. Now, as you know, with normal rigs, if you don't hit the clip perfectly, it's tangled 90% of the time. You know, if you use even a coated braid or anything, it's usually tangled. So you got to fish a rig like a stiff hinge rig or like these booms, these boom type rigs. But it's kind of normal, you know, to the sort of good thinking anglers, plug, that you're just trying to combat problems. But the key things you're always trying to do is to make sure you're presented and make sure you're fishing. Because one thing I've noticed from doing the odd tuition and from taking, anglers of all levels abroad is that quite often they've time's precious. You've got a weekend angler fishing 2 nights, and if you haven't been feeling for the drop, and you're reeling in the morning, all 3 of your rods are in weed or they're tangled and you just weren't fishing for the night. I mean, it sounds... There's a few little things that we know, such as making sure you hit the clip cleanly, or if you know you can't always hit the clip, making sure that you're on a rig that doesn't tangle. Like, these little things are probably 80% of the difference. Just knowing that you're fishing.
These things haven't come naturally or easily. These things have come through mistakes made in the past by myself, by other anglers, learning from other anglers' mistakes, but more importantly, your own mistakes. And then it's about applying what's necessary to overcome that mistake next time. So, I've seen this before. I could have this issue. I've got my lines. The reason I did that, so let's take that piece of information. I was fishing over a load of weed, swans coming through. I see it's about foreseeing the problem before it's arisen, and the only reason I've foreseen it is because it's happened to me before. Where I've done it, the swans have come through, nailed me. I'm in the middle of the night. There's no way I'm hitting them baby spots anymore. I'm done. I wasted my time. Bang, baby black's gone. So it's about learning from your mistakes. When you have them absolute nightmares that we all have in fishing, no one's perfect. We're always learning. There's no guy in fishing that knows everything. Because if he does, I want to meet him. Because you're always learning. It's all about their mistakes and remembering them, not just thinking, I've had a nightmare and then forgetting it. Right, what could I have done different? And then next time this situation arises, I'm gonna make sure that I apply a certain thing to it.
Exactly.
That's the same as anything in life, isn't it, mate? Come on, if you've got to learn by your mistakes in life, and it's the same in fishing.
Absolutely. So on that little noodle nugget.
Don't get caught with your pants down twice, do you, Jay?
Exactly. Yeah, not in the same place anyhow. No, but it does seem logical, But it's one thing in common. It is being good at fishing. It's quite often just being practical. Roger Bacon's always one of the people like that's problem solver. Yeah. He's got a range of big leads in there. If it gets too windy, he's adding a couple of wraps on to counteract the bow just to hit the same spot. He's using a heavier leg. Like, you constantly a lot of fishing, it's physics. It's just basic. You're trying to hit a tiny spot. We're just talking about the difference between using braid or fluorocarbon and line to give yourself a heads up, and then it's adapting to those changes in general physics. The wind's got up. How many people we see had an extra wrap on when a big side wind's got up? They've been hitting the spot. They're like, the spot's gone. And no, it hasn't gone. You're just landing a rod length and a half shorter now because of the bow. Do you know what I mean? It's like just little things that are usually logical. I've always said in fishing, there's usually somewhere else in nature you can look to solve the problem. It's there's normally something you can compare it to, and when you make an analogy and you go, yeah, that makes sense. I've said this loads of times on the podcast, but the spread baiting theory, like that, we call it a dog in the pub. And when it was first mentioned to me, you pour a jar of peanuts on the deck and right in front of the dog, it's going to yam them all and wag its tail and look at you going, where's the rest? You take that same amount of peanuts and sling them in every corner of the pub, it doesn't know when it's ate them all. Like, it'll spend an hour walking around the pub looking for them, and then when it's ate them all, it doesn't know it's ate them all because it could be another one in a different corner. It's just like, you can compare everything to something, and I believe in nature everything happens for a reason. You might not know what that is. You might never find out why the fish always sit in that part of the lake in winter. It could be because there's something on the bottom you can't see, you know, the bloodworm beds or swan mussels, or there's a few features that shelter it from the cold winds, so you get a nice little lee of water. But just noticing the patterns, I think, is your first
Definitely.
step.
You've got to log everything. I log it all. I used to log it all a lot more physically, but I log it mentally a lot now. And you know, the more I've logged it, the more I'm starting to see the same things happen time and time again. Oh, I've seen this here. I've seen this on this way. Seen that type of behaviour. I need to be doing this. I need to be doing that. It's about keeping your eyes open for me. You know, keep your eyes open, making mental notes or physical notes, and just applying every time. You know, like you say, it is science. It's physics. You know, even with the, you know, this. Anyhow, one of the most common questions I get on social media is about bloody wrapping up to your spawns and your wedding and all that. You know, that is general physics, you know, and you know what? The answer to it is it isn't one solid answer, because it's all about your casting and feeling down techniques. And I've done this time and time again now when I'm on tuitions. It's one of the things that I'll teach them. I'll teach them to cast with a certain technique that will make them leads and spawns and that land in the same place. You know, because you got to allow for swing back and things. But with me, I'm not going to go too much into detail for it now, unless you want me to, because people want it answering. It's up to you. I don't mind.
Well, maybe they should be entering the competition. They can fish with me and you and ask us all the time.
You've got to think about, you know, for me, when I quit, it's all about what angle you have your rod at when you're.
Of course, it is. Yeah, it's consistency.
Yeah, I'll always have my rod at about 90 to 45 degrees. That's 90 degrees vertical or 45 degrees forward when I hit the quit. And then it gives me plenty of time to be able to feel down. And what that does is, by feeling down, you're actually taking the strain off the lead, so it drops more vertically rather than if you're a holder. Yeah. So that's what I call them, holders. Some people hit the quit and then hold and wait for the thump. If you're holding, you're swinging back a hell of a lot more than what mine would swing back, because I'm chasing the lead down, and that's taking that swing back off. So them two things there. If you're a holder, you've got to allow for that with your baiting, or take it off. Sorry. Or if you're a feeler downer, then you're pretty much there or there, bang on, feeler downer.
You're a holder. I hope that makes
I hope that makes some sort of sense to someone, to the people listening. You know,
well, there's no right or wrong way. It's making sure you know what you're doing, and then adjusting for it. So if you're adding a bit on with your spod, and it's the same thing what we said again. Your spod is most people's spod is on a braid rod, and if you're casting on a nylon rod, you swing back. You know, is different, or you've seen it. How hard you hit the clip on nylon to how hard you hit the clip on a spod. Like the spring back on braid, if you hit the clip hard, it'll come back a rod length and a half, and you think you've hit the clip nicely and whatever. If you just hit it a little bit hard, it's probably short of your actual spot. Not to mention the stretching nylon. When that lead hits the clip, it doesn't spring back anything like as much. And again, the shallower you are, it doesn't get a chance to spring back. If you're fishing in 5 or 6 foot, it doesn't get a chance to normalise at all. If you're fishing in 15 foot, where you've got a second or two for the kind of the nylon to stretch as you hit the clip and then come back again on its way down. Like, you need to know. It doesn't really matter how you're fishing as long as you know what's happening. And then you adjust.
Tell you a great way for people to learn this, you know, and again, this is all about, so when I said it's all down to the person, right? So it's all about your techniques. Now, it's not all about changing your technique to suit mine or to suit yours or whatever. It's about keep your same technique, but you might have to adjust certain things, i.e. your wrappages and that. And the best way to learn what you're doing and what you need to do in your own casting, if you're uncertain about where you're putting your bait in your rigs, is either if you've got access to a boat, that's great. You know, I do it on Stone Acres with tuitions when I've took them over there. There's a lovely little hump about 60 yards out that I'll go and put an H-block out, and I'll say, right, find me the spot there, then put your rig out to it, and then put your bait over it, and we're not going to go out, and then we're going to go and see what you did. And it's brilliant. You know, other people that haven't got access to a boat, what you want to do is do it on a lake where you can cast to a margin of some sort, whether it be a far margin or over to a left corner or something over a bay, and you'll cast, and you can cast to the margin, find a little spot there, then put your rig there, and then put your bait there. I've had it where you get your mate to stand over the other side, and he'll tell you if it's landing in different places, and you can adjust it. It's brilliant to go and see and watch, and to swing back and all that sort of stuff. You can get out and do that, and you want to be fishing accurately, then that's the way I do it. And the thing is, just jumping on what you said just last week about the mono, the stretch and all that, that stuff is more than apparent when you start fishing to a far margin. I remember back in the day when I was younger, and I clipped up with some braid feeling up to these trees, and I thought, yeah, bang, and it was like 12 and a half wraps or something. Wrapped me bloody mono up, 12 and a half wraps through it, went straight in the fucking tree.
Yeah. I've done it loads.
It just stretched out, and I just thought that was going nowhere near that spot. It was about 8 foot up the tree, you know what I mean? It was well off. And now I'm using braided mainline, braided leading rod, braided spodding. It's all going in the exact same place, and I know it. I've proved it to myself time and time again. Boat fishing, where I've had access, and I've done casting, then baiting, put the rigs out, bang, gone out there. It's all pretty much bang on where I wanted and where I thought it was. So get yourselves out and do that if you get a chance. If not, win this tuition, and if we do it on Lynch, I'll take you on Stoneacres to that nice 80-yard hunt.
More noodle nuggets.
Yeah. Good spot,
all right, dude. Well, I've not eaten yet. It's tea time, so I'm going to go and get some food. But I think we had a bit of a laugh at the start, and we got deep on some technical stuff. There's plenty of nuggets to be had there, I think.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Well, it's been good to be back, mate. Good to see you back. Carp Cast back in action. Is this it? Like fully? I know you've been doing it a bit now, but is this everything fully flowing?
But we've got a lot of things going on. We were chatting before, a few little secret bits about little business projects that are going on, and they're all pointing towards maintaining the Carp Cast throughout this year. I can't promise it'll be every week, but it'll be most weeks for sure.
That's it. All right, sweet, mate. I haven't got a clue how to end this video, so I'll let you do that, and I'll see you around, mate, like a donut.
Thank you very much for your time, pal.
Yeah, you too, mate. See you again.
Check out the website at www.thecarpcast.com. There you'll find extra content, merchandise, and lots more to support the show, including our entire back catalogue of free offerings.